Stand up, New York Giant fans. I am super excited. I've got a bunch of people on the panel. I thank you guys for tuning in. Before I get started, I just want to say thank you to Fix the O-Line. He says, does Daniel Jones ever call an audible? We'll talk about that first. Thank you so much, Philip. I really appreciate that. Thank you to everybody for being here. I see Scotty is in here. I see Rick Nash in here, Ligma, Jawad, Sacred Dust, Evan Collins, Scotty H, Chris is in here, Packins in here, Lake Nona, Adam. Thank you to everybody for being here. I saw Clocks was in here as well. Thank you guys for being here. I wanted to obviously go around. Savage Boz, it's his first time on the channel. He's been a great supporter of mine for a really long time. I always talk to him on Twitter. What's going on, man? Thanks for coming on the channel. Appreciate it.
Dude, nothing much, man. Just excited, trying to be optimistic as a Giants fan, but, after the last, 8 years, ever since I, became a diehard fan after we won our second Super Bowl, I've been pretty let down by the team by then, but, just excited to be on the channel tonight and, talk some Giants.
It's been tough the last 8 years. There's no doubt about it, but thanks for coming on. David was on here last week. Thank you for coming back on. David, you got you doubled up on the Saquon gear tonight, you said.
Got the hat and the pregame warm-up too. Pregame warm-up shirt.
There you go. There you go. And, of course, I always try to have one other YouTuber on here every time I do one of these, and I got Bobby Skinner. He's been on the channel before. He's from Talking Giants. If one of my Wrench Gang could post his link throughout the chat, throughout the stream, I would appreciate it. Bobby, thank you so much for coming on, man. You do a great job on your channel. I'm excited to talk Giants with you tonight.
What's going on, fellas? Glad to be back on. We're entering week 3, and we need our spirits lifted. So let's get the ball rolling, man.
We need some optimism. That's what hopefully we talk about tonight. We get the spirits up, and I think we come out with a win tomorrow. But we're going to talk about it. Johnny Boy, man, thank you so much. He says fist bump and OGR Sports in the stream. He says can't stay. I am calling UFC soon. That being said, Bobby and Justin have been killing. So salute to you guys. Cheers. Good luck with the show. Tana, love these roundtables. OGR, man, thank you so much. I tried to get Justin on, too. He said he was going to his friend's house tonight. Otherwise, I would have had him on as well. He's phenomenal as well. You guys have a fantastic channel. You deserve a lot more subscribers. But I see your channel starting to grow.
Yeah, it's starting to grow.
Yeah. But let's talk about the game tomorrow. Obviously, the New York Giants coming in at 0-2. I don't want to label anything a must-win because we're not looking at this year as a playoff-type year. But here's what I'll say. You're starting to get the Daniel Jones critics. You're starting to get the people, now the mass media is starting to talk about it. And I'm all for Daniel Jones. I know probably everybody on here is as well. They want to give him as good of an opportunity as they can. But I think this is a very important game for the Giants and Daniel Jones to shut the critics up because you already could see it. If the Giants lose this game, well, the 49ers were missing their 4 best players on defense. They were missing their quarterback, blah, blah, blah. So I think there is some pressure in this matchup for the New York Giants to come out with a win, not to mention the schedule gets even more challenging after this. This is kind of a golden opportunity when you look at it for the Giants maybe to come out with a victory. Boz, we'll talk with you. Give me your thoughts on the game tomorrow.
Well, yeah, in regards to Daniel Jones, I was one of the same people like you. As soon as we drafted him, I was absolutely livid. I mean, I was going to see Avengers that night, and it almost ruined my entire night. But after that, my brother talked me into it and everything. So I've been the biggest Daniel Jones supporter ever. I'm kind of like Bad Dog. The next day, I was all on the Daniel Jones train. But in regards to tomorrow, I mean, there's literally no excuses at this point. I mean, the Giants, the whole team is in crutches on the other side. There's no way that we can look at this game and say to ourselves, like, this is a game that, we should lose or that, we would understand if we lost. Like, at this point, this team has to know what it's like to win. Like, we can't take these moral victories anymore. Like, this team has to show something in regards to, a winning football team or a winning culture at this point. And, we can't go into the season 0-7 and then start winning at the back end of the season when it doesn't matter just to get those moral victories. But I honestly think we're going to win tomorrow. I don't see how we don't. I think this team is due for a win. I look at this. I look at the roster. We're down Shepard and Saquon, but I mean, the last time we had the worst running attack in the league and we had a running, by committee, we won the Super Bowl. So, and the last time everyone thought that our quarterback was done and we had to, tank for the next quarterback and everything, Eli Manning brought it out and won us the Super Bowl. So I'm not saying we're going to go to the Super Bowl or that we're going to win, 11 games or win out the season or anything. But I do think we're going to win this game. And I do feel like, at least at this point, like Daniel Jones is going to have his breakout game where he really shows us, like, at least against somewhat of a good defense, because I know they have a good defensive coordinator. But I feel like this is the game where he's going to show us, like, we're going to see some throws and some things that are really going to prove to us that he is the guy.
Love it. Love the optimism. Love the optimism. David, I want to ask you a question about this game going in. Boz brought up the running back by committee. What do you think about that going in? Did you see enough from the offensive line last week where you're semi-confident with the banged-up defensive front from the San Francisco 49ers that you think we can come out and establish a run from the out of the gate this week and help Daniel Jones out?
Everyone knows I'm the biggest Saquon fan, if you can't see. But after Saquon went down and we had to rely more on Deion Lewis and give those touches to someone else, it felt like we were actually getting to actually run the ball a little bit. And I feel like once we have that committee established, like we're gonna have this weekend, we're gonna be able to at least get some yards off of it, and if not, help Daniel Jones move the ball a little bit faster.
Yeah.
And I feel like this game is also important for Daniel, like Boss said, so he can shut up those tank for Trevor critics. We're gonna leave those tank for Trevor critics for the Jets, not the Giants here.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Bobby, I want your full breakdown of the game, what you think going in, and what the New York Giants could try to do to take advantage of this, of the 49ers, I guess, on both sides of the football.
Yeah, man. I mean, they're obviously banged up all over the field. You know, Nick Bosa. I mean, I don't need to tell everyone who's injured. Daniel Jones hasn't had 3 bad games in a row in his career. Last week was his first game without a touchdown. We've seen him put up these big touchdown games. I hope the first 2 weeks, I love that Daniel Jones is aggressive, but the first 2 games I said, let's reel it in a little bit against these 2 good defenses in Pittsburgh and Chicago. But now open it back up. I don't want to take his aggressiveness away. I want him making tight throws down the field. Bring back that aggressiveness. That's what I want to see from Daniel Jones, scoring touchdowns. And, you know, picking and choosing his battles, obviously. But you know what? Like that Eagles throw to Golden Tate, the contested throws to Darius Slayton that have ended up touchdowns. Want to see those again. You know, we're playing a team that's banged up, so there's no reason for us to play passive like we have these past couple games. And then obviously, you know, limit the mistakes. I'm fine with interceptions. I know that sounds silly, but he's a second-year QB. I want him taking chances, and with taking chances is growing, learning, making mistakes. The thing that just bothers me like crazy is the fumbles. Just get rid of the fumbles. I can live with interceptions, as dumb as that sounds, but just get rid of the damn fumbles.
I'm with you on that. You know, Eli Manning was that way too. And if you want to me, I would much rather have a guy that's willing to take shots to make plays than a guy like Alex Smith, who's a traditional game manager.
Right.
Because when they hit on those plays, that can win you football games. Of course, when they miss, it could lose you games. But I'm with you on that. I don't mind the interceptions, especially for a young quarterback. You know they're going to make mistakes. The fumbling, though, like you said, especially last week, that fumble was inexcusable. He's got to do a better job than that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. And we asked going into the season, we said, I think I even said it with you last time I was on, cut the fumbles in half. So technically he's on pace for that because he's only had 1 in 2 games. But obviously, well, let's go a few games without it. And then in week 6, when it happens, like, oh, then it's not a big a deal. When we can't have 2 weeks in a row. So I feel like Jones has made some good plays. He's made some like he's been the reason we've been in games, and then he's been the reason we've lost games. Like, you know, the interception against Pittsburgh, the fumble against Chicago put 3 points on the board. So as much as I love Jones, he has made mistakes that have cost the Giants, but that's what you expect with a second-year QB who doesn't who doesn't play like a pansy.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. And thank you very much. Oh, man, Timmy, man, thank you so much, man. You've been you're always in the Discord, great supporter of my channel. Thank you so much for the love. And Sacred Dust says, I know it's not a playoff year, but if we can't run the ball against the second-string D-line, I will start to worry. Sacred Dust, I'm going to be honest with you. I think that is fair to say. But I'm going to continue to say, and I want to get Bobby's perspective on this because he's a former offensive lineman. He does a great job with the offensive line breakdowns. I personally still think it's a little early to judge this offensive line because you've got 3 new pieces and they need to learn to play together. You know, to me, it's all about getting used to one another on the offensive line, and the New York Giants haven't had enough time to do that yet. No preseason games. So I still could see a struggle. But against this defense, I tend to agree with Sacred Dust. I don't expect to get embarrassed tomorrow. I think they'll get a sizable push. I think they'll provide at least adequate pass protection. But I want you to speak a little bit on the offensive line.
Yeah, I'll start with pass protection. Obviously, week 1, it was a wreck. Week 2, I actually thought it was really good, and the numbers showed that. You know, Jones was pressured like 3 times less. He was hit like 8. He was only hit once compared to 9 times week 1. Nick Gates played really well. Zeitler bounced back. Hernandez was solid. Thomas was the one who had the most struggles. Cam Fleming, for what our expectations of him, I felt like he did. He didn't play good, but I felt like for what his expectations are, he kind of met him for that game. But the run game, we need to get a little more movement, and I feel like our run game is like a high school offense. Like it's like zone left, zone right, a little power over, they pull a guard, and a toss, and a toss play. So I would like them to let Andrew Thomas pull, let Will Hernandez and Andrew Thomas pull, try some creative stuff in the run game. And also, I will say against Chicago, Pittsburgh, it was just brutal. Against Chicago, I couldn't believe how many holes Dion Lewis missed. Where he'd have a hole right in front of him, and he'd try and cut back, and it ended up being a 1-yard run when it could have been an 8+ yard run.
Yeah, I heard you say zone right, zone left. At least in the first game, we didn't run left at all. I think we had one run to the left the entire game, and that's supposed to be the strength of our offensive line. So I'd like to see them do that more. The other thing I noticed, I don't know if you saw this last week. It looked like the New York Giants brought Caden Smith in at the H-back or the fullback position to be a lead blocker in a number of runs, and it actually looked like it worked.
Yeah, he looked good. I guess I keep on going back to it, but there was a play where if Dion Lewis reads it right, it's a long gain, and he just goes right off of Caden Smith. He does that. Even against Pittsburgh, they did that, and there was a play where Bud Dupree blew it up because Zeitler wasn't able to pull in time. But if he was just able to stop him for half a second, it would have been a big run lead, with the Caden Smith lead block. That 18-yard Saquon run was with the Caden Smith lead block. So yeah, I love getting a true fullback, and I don't think Elijah Penny is, but I'm glad that Caden has come in and shown that a little bit. Yeah,
I like the way they used him in that. And Rolly, what's going on? He says, "What up, Christian? Everyone, Skinner." Shaking my head. Him and I had issues on Twitter in the past. I'm listening to both you and Bad Dog. Rolly, man, thank you so much for being here.
DM me. Let's work through our issues. I'm not sure who that is.
I feel like that's half of Giants Twitter at you. So
yeah, he's definitely a very opinionated Giant fan. He's passionate. Yvonne, man, thank you so much. He says, "Who steps up to help DJ in the passing game? Let's go." All right, let's start with Boz on this. Obviously, the New York Giants, they had Sterling Shepard. That's a big injury. Of course, Barkley, of course, is another major target for him to throw to out of the backfield. How do you think let's answer Yvonne's question. How do you think the New York Giants, what do they do in the passing game to try to make up for the loss of both Shepard and Barkley?
I don't think it's really one thing you can do to really make up for it. I just think the players have to step up. Like Darius Slayton, he stepped up in the first game. He's got to really step up in the second game. If he really wants to show us he's a number one wide receiver, he's got to, create separation with the number one corner on the other team. He's got to at least give Daniel Jones a target that's all he always knows he can rely on. Because right now we look at our receivers and pretty much there's nobody that you always can say yeah, this person gets open, or this person can create separation, or this person is so good at route running that they always will be open, or this, that, and the other thing. Evan Ingram's inconsistent with dropping balls. Golden Tate, he's getting old, and he won't even be on the team next year. And he's, he can't get great separation. He can catch the ball, but and he's good after the catch, but he's got to catch the ball first to utilize his yak ability. And then you look at the people we have, behind those two, and you got, Sterling Shepard's out, so you got CJ Board, who,
he's been okay, but I don't bank on him.
He's nothing. Yeah. He's nothing special. He's not a world beater or anything. And then you have Ratley, and then whoever their fifth wide receiver, if they bring a fifth wide receiver from the practice squad up. It's really just got to be
Johnny.
You got to have that.
Did they call up Holton, Bobby?
Yeah.
They did. Okay. He was the guy that was
Dylan.
He was known for special teams, Holton.
I guess that's what they're going to do. Use him as a special teams.
He's going to catch 4 touchdowns this weekend. It doesn't matter.
But yeah, I think it's got to be Slayton. It has to be. If he's the guy who has the most chemistry with Daniel Jones. He's been the guy who's been the most consistent. He last week before our last game, he had the most touchdowns in the league of any receiver since I think it was
Week 5.
Week 5. He had the most touchdowns in the league. We need him to continue that. We need him to prove himself to either be a solid number 2 or to come out and be our number 1 receiver. We have to have weapons for Daniel Jones to throw to, or he's never going to be able to progress as a quarterback. When people say Daniel Jones isn't progressing, it's because he doesn't, like you said earlier, he has no team around him. He doesn't have any bona fide number 1 wide receiver. Now, people will say, well, you trade away Odell Beckham Jr. But, you look at it, he has nobody that he can consistently, besides Saquon, that is a bona fide top 5 player at their position in the league. And we need someone to step up and, become that number one, either tight end or number one wide receiver. And then, obviously Saquon's our number one running back, but he's down. So we need to make sure that our running backs, step up and try to fill at least a portion of what Saquon leaves behind.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. I personally, I think the best way to do this, I think the Giants are going to have to be effective in the ground game. And I think this week, more so than any other, due to the fact that the Niners are without their 2 best pass rushers. They're without Ford. They're without Bosa. They're without Sherman as a cornerback. We haven't seen it all, David. We have not seen it at all the first 2 weeks outside of the one deep throw. And I'm not putting that on Jones. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're coming out with a vanilla playbook. They know they're going up against great pass rush. They're not going to have a lot of time to block. But this game, with the injuries that the 49ers have, now you're 3 weeks into the season, I want to see the New York Giants take more shots down the field. It's something that I expected in the Jason Garrett-led offense. What's your thoughts on that, Dave?
I want to see that too, but I also want to see them use DJ's athleticism. I want to see him move outside of the pocket, see him use his legs a little bit more. And what Boz said, we do need another receiver, because even when we're at full strength, I've never been super confident on Evan Ingram after he's been Mr. Butterfingers for 3 years. And then when we were still at full strength, the only receiver we actually had that was an actual receiver was Slayton. Because in my opinion, Sterling Shepard and Golden State are 2 slot receivers. We don't have another outside receiver to pair up with Slayton, and then when we don't have Saquon, what else are we gonna have then?
Yeah, I think you're right, and it's why I kind of talked about this week. Why I want to get your thoughts on this, Bobby. Right now, the New York Giants, in my opinion, are kind of probably going to be what you would think would be sell mode, right? If say we start 1-5, we get to the trade deadline, you would think you would sell. But then when you think about it, you've got a quarterback that you're trying to figure out whether or not he's going to be the future of this football team. And I think we all agree that he definitely could be. Are you going to be so quick to sell players like Evan Ingram and to sell players on this offense and then give Daniel Jones absolutely nothing? And would you be open to possibly bringing somebody in, maybe a guy that's on a 2 or 3 year deal at the wide receiver position, being that we're so thin there, to try to help out your second-year quarterback? I want to get your thoughts on that, Bobby.
If they're not going to on offense, if they don't think like, hey, this isn't going to work, this Ingram experiment's over, I would like them to trade, because you do have Caden Smith, and I don't, Caden Smith isn't a world beater, but he does make you more comfortable if ever Ingram goes down. Ingram's had like a rocky start to start this season. I mean, week 1 was close to maybe his worst game ever. Week 2, he calls an interception when he slipped on that play. So it's been, I know he was our leading receiver that game, but I was always against the put him at wide receiver movement. I'm on it now. I've officially been beaten down. I will put him. I would like to put him at wide receiver. Let's see let's figure out how to use this guy. He's too good of a talent to not know how to use him. So if they have just no plans with him, I would be fine with that. But you can also trade him in the offseason because he has another year. So that would stop me from it. And then as far as going out and getting a guy, in 2021 free agency, my biggest target would be Allen Robinson. Now, I know James Bradbury just had a really good game against him, but I think he's an awesome wide receiver, and I think just goes to speak how good James Bradbury is. So I would love to trade for him if they can, like if it was like one of those deals where you trade for him, and then as soon as you trade for him, you extend him. Not a Leonard Williams situation.
I agree with that.
Where
Yeah,
you trade for him and then hope you sign him. Like it has to be a trade and sign him immediately, not we'll wait till the offseason and see if we can get something to work. We can't have another Leonard Williams situation is basically what I'm saying. Yeah, where you end up overpaying him. And you brought up Leonard Williams. That's going to bring me to the defense, and we'll start with you this time, Bobby. The defense through 2 weeks to me has been – it's definitely – I think it's exceeded everybody's expectations, if you're being honest. And I'm not saying the Steelers have an unbelievable offense. I'm not saying that the Bears have an unbelievable offense. But last year, it didn't matter who we went up against. Every offense looked unbelievable. So – the defense so far this year, we're 4th in the league in yards against. We're 5th in sacks. The defense has looked night and day. Bradbury, like you just said, has been phenomenal through 2 weeks. What do you think is the biggest reason why this New York Giants defense looks so much better than last year? I think one is James Bradbury. You've been able to just trust him to shut down one person on that team. But I really do give Patrick Graham a lot of credit, man. Now, the whole 3-man rush on a third down thing bothered me. But what I like about Graham is he switches it up. He constantly makes you think. And he knows where his weaknesses are. Where, like, yes, Corey Ballantyne did have that touchdown at the end of the half. But I feel like he's done a good job of hiding that cornerback too, where they're not able, like last year, teams were able to attack our slot and cornerback too just at ease. I mean, even the Bears did. They lined up Allen Robinson against Ballantyne and just torched us. So I feel like he's done a good job of hiding that cornerback too. Now, you can't hide him for an entire game. We saw that these last 2 weeks. But I feel like he's done a good job. And then just player-wise, I feel like Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence have been beasts in the middle, especially in that Pittsburgh game. They both got sacks. I wish they would have had more reps in the Chicago game because Austin Johnson's getting reps, which is weird.
Yeah.
So those guys have been beasts in the middle, and Blake Martinez has been very solid. Week 1, he was like all pro, and week 2, I thought he did pretty decent as well.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. I personally think the biggest contributing factor is Patrick Graham. I think the guy is night and day, much just better. He's just a better defensive coordinator, at least for the personnel that we have on this team, than James Betcher. And you've seen it. And, I pointed to a number of stats, but the defense so far has been great. I just hope they can keep it up. And they're going to be tested this week, David. And I look at this 49ers offense, and I think a lot of people are just saying, well, Nick Mullins is in there. You don't got much to worry about. To me, when I think about the 49ers offense, I don't think about the quarterback. I think about the head coach. He's a mastermind on offense. And what that offense is known for is pre-snap movement. I think 79% of the time last year, they had pre-snap movement. It was by far the most in the league. They utilized the fullback a lot, and they've got probably the best ground attack in the league. Now, they're without their 2 running backs, but they still got McKinnon. And where the New York Giants have struggled over the first 2 weeks has been the ground game on defense and on offense. And what I said in my preview video was, if you look at the numbers, the New York Giants have actually been really good against the run over the first 3 quarters. It's the fourth quarter where we're wearing down because we can't get first downs on first downs on third down on offense, and we can't get them off the field on defense on third downs. I feel like we're wearing down over the course of the game. But I still worry about the running attack for the San Francisco 49ers. I think a lot of people are sleeping on that because they're without their top 2 running backs. What's your thoughts on that?
I feel like in that offense and that specific run scheme, the majority of decent NFL running backs could look worldly in there, especially with that offensive line that they have and with that play calling that they have, and like you said, the pre-snap movement and moving the O-line all the time. I still think, regardless, without them having their top weapons at running back, that they're still a potent offense.
Yeah, I still think they're going to be able to move the ball. We'll see. Bobby, what's your thoughts on that about as far as the 49ers, and then we'll get to Buzz.
Yeah, I think their run game is still going to be decent. Justin did a good job sharing that they're kind of been boom or bust this year, but that offensive line is the one position that is still intact for that offense. So they can do some good things. Kyle Shanahan does a good job of attacking teams by using pulls. Like you mentioned the fullback. I love Kyle Juszczyk. He's the reason why I wish the Giants would go out and get spend $4 million. I don't care. Go get me a real fullback because it really does affect your run game. So yeah, I know this is a game we want. Think we can win because they are injured, but I also am not downplaying them either because that offensive line and Kyle Shanahan can plug and play over there.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan's a brilliant offensive mind. What about you, Buzz? You worried about the defense tomorrow? You think we'll keep them in check?
I mean, I'm not necessarily worried about our defense. I mean, they've kind of showed us the first 2 weeks that they at least are capable. They aren't out there looking like they're lazy. They actually look like they want to play football and they actually want to play defense. I think the real key here, though, is like Bobby said, their O-line is all intact, and any running back can run through a wide open hole. And if they create holes for any running back, they can run through it. And it's really going to be up to Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams and Dalvin Tomlinson to really clog up those holes to allow players like Blake Martinez, either Devontae Downs and then Lorenzo Carter and Marcus Golden and all them to be able to penetrate the line and actually hit the running back while he's hitting the hole instead of getting bullied at the line of scrimmage. It's really going to be a battle in the trenches tomorrow. Whoever wins the battle in the trenches is going to win that game. I mean, the 49ers, they've shown multiple times, even when they are healthy, even if they're down, Kyle Shanahan he lives and dies by the run, and he'll run the ball even if he's down just to try to run it down your throats and try to wear down your your defense by running the ball. And if they win in the trenches with their offensive line, with people like Trent Williams and stuff, like Dalvin Tomlinson, Leonard Williams, and Dexter Lawrence have to win the trench battle for us to win this game. Like, they are the X factor in this game, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's usually where games are won, no doubt about it. But in this game specifically, this is a team, the Niners are a team that runs the football, and that's supposed to be our strength on defense. It hasn't been so far this year due to the fact that I think we've been wearing down, but I agree. I think the biggest key in this game is getting Nick Mullins in those 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6s, and I think you'll come up with some turnover opportunities if you could do that, but I think it's going to be easier said than done. I'm not going to be sleeping on that run offense of the San Francisco 49ers, and if they get it going, they're going to be tough to beat because they'll control the clock. And they'll wear us down over the course of the game. So we have to do a good job. Put 8 in the box. Do what the Steelers did to us. Put 8 in the box. Force Nick Mullins to throw the football. JB, man, thank you so much. He says, we're going to blow the 49ers out tomorrow. Guaranteed.
I love it. I love it.
I love it too, man. I love it too.
We need it. We need a comfortable victory as fans. Yeah, we had one of those all of last year. Give us one comfortable victory.
We don't get those. Even when we're good, we don't get those. You should know that better than anybody.
It's just the Giants' luck at this point.
Yeah. But we'll see. I would love a comfortable win. I would love at halftime to be like, all right, now I can relax. This game's over. But I honestly don't see that being the case. I think it'll be a close game. But I do think we'll have turnover opportunities. And I do think that Daniel Jones is going to have a good game. That I am pretty confident in. I think Daniel Jones is going to go out there tomorrow. I think he's going to have a good game. I think the offense will be able to move the ball. It's more the defense, even though they've been playing so well. Mm-hmm. I worry a little bit more about the defense in this game just because I respect Shanahan so much. They still have that offensive line intact. But I think the offense, with all the injuries to the 49ers defense, I'm not saying they're going to be putting up 40 points, but I think we'll be able to move the ball as well as we have so far this season. I think this is the weakest defense that we've gone up against when you factor in all the injuries for the San Francisco 49ers. Let's see what we got here. Let's go Giants. Let's see what we got. Thank you guys for being here, by the way. I really do appreciate it. The game will be decided by who scores the most points, JC. Well, yeah, JC, that's usually how it works. Usually the team that scores the most points wins.
I got the analytics team.
Our Giant streamers are drunk for saying we will blow out San Francisco. Who said? Did anybody on here say we were going to blow out San Francisco? Because I didn't hear that.
No, we're saying we desperately need a blowout in our life.
Yeah. I definitely don't. I picked the Giants by 3. What was your final score, Bobby?
I mean, I always go Giants 77, other team 0. So I guess I am predicting. I guess I am the one that's drunk.
I'm predicting a 28-10.
Wow, you really do think it'll be a blowout, Dave?
Like I said, I feel like if we don't comfortably win this game, we're gonna either have to win like we did against the Buccaneers with a fluky field goal, or we're not going to.
All right. What about you, Boz? What do you think?
I think it's gonna be 24-17.
All right, you got us by about a touchdown. I got us by about a field goal. I hope they blow them out. And if there's an opportunity, I'll say this: if there's an opportunity, due to the fact that they're so banged up, this year, it might be this might be one of the most logical games where they could do it. But I just want to get a win. I don't care if we win 2-0. Just get a win.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe that'll start to give the New York Giants some momentum. 24-17 Giants, the Happy Huntsman says. I like your confidence, man. And Gisolo says ESPN Analytics predicted the Giants to win 20-19. I don't always go by that. Sometimes you got the Madden simulations and they say the Giants are, let's just win on the football field. I don't care what the ESPN Analytics say. But what I will say, if the Giants do win this game, all right, I'm trying to be optimistic here, but if they do win the game, if you look at the division this week, Cowboys are going to lose. Cowboys are not going to win in Seattle. They're not.
No, there's no way. Not with how Russ is playing, no.
Washington, I think, is going to lose in Cleveland, even though I don't love Cleveland. I think the Browns will win at home against Washington. And the Eagles will probably win against who they playing. The Eagles are playing a bad team. I can't remember. But the Bengals.
They're playing the Bengals, yeah. The Bengals.
Yeah. So I think if the Giants were to win this game, as crazy as it sounds, we're going to be 1-2. And we're going to be tied for first place with every team in the division.
First place, baby.
That is insane.
I feel like someone in our division is going to go to the playoffs at like 7-9 or 6-10.
And all I ask for as a Giants fan, if you could get me to week 5 where we're tied for the division, even if every team's 1-3, I don't care.
Yeah.
Get me to the Cowboy game where everybody's tied, and then we'll see who does the best in the division.
No one in our division is going to have double-digit wins this year. And I give that a bad dog guarantee.
It's going to be another 9-7 winner this year.
It might not. It might be 8-8. The schedules are
Could be 8-8.
so challenging for the NFC East this year. So, Zeke, man, thank you so much, man. He says this is a must-win. In my opinion, we were in position to win both games and didn't get it done. If we are truly progressing and improving, then we have to take advantage of the 49ers team and win. No excuses. Anybody have anything to say to that?
No, I mean, it depends what you mean by a must win. Like, is it a must win? Like, for who? Like, is it a must win for Joe Judge? I don't think so. I think he's going to be around next year. You know what? It's week 3. There's no such thing as a must win for playoffs. Yes, for us to make the playoffs, we need to win this game. But for things that go on that are going to happen at the end of the year, whether it's firings or hirings, I'm not making any decisions after week 3. I'm sorry.
I think a must-win game for someone like Dave Gettleman.
But even what? And I'm not standing for Dave Gettleman. But what happens if we reel off 7 in a row after that? You know. So
I'm saying the total off, like say six games saved his job, but we got 5 and we didn't win this week. You know, something like that.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Is like I don't like it's hard for me to say, like, I don't even know what that means, must win at week 3, you know. Like, I'm not saying that Dave Gettleman's going to be kept around, but I don't think, like, if everything goes as expected for the rest of the season, like what they were expecting, and then like, but we did lose week 3 to San Francisco. Like, I don't think, like, you know, that was a must win. I don't think they're going to like fire Gettleman for that. Not saying he's not going to be fired, just saying. Like, must win is just a weird term for week 3, I guess.
This is, like I said at the top of the stream, in my opinion, it would be a very good win to get people off of Daniel Jones's back, because I think you're starting to get that from within the Giants fan base. I already feel it. And if they lose this game and Jones plays bad, people are going to be all over him. So I think in that aspect, it would be a huge win for Daniel Jones. I'll say that. That's what I'll say going into this game.
Yeah, Daniel Jones having a big but I do think, Chris, that this year, because people are all in on Trevor Lawrence, I really don't think much is going to, like, unless he just like flat out lights it up, like undeniably, like 4 touchdowns every week. After every bad game he has this year, people will be down his throat. It's just, that's the way fan bases work now.
Especially New York.
Yeah. Oh, especially New York. So it's my mic fell. So yeah, it's brutal. But like you said, get everyone off his back for at least a week.
Yeah, give them a little time to breathe, and then they get back on it after hopefully we beat the Rams. But
Chris, week 1, everyone was talking about how well Daniel Jones looked. We're like, yeah, he did make the mistake, but he looked good. He looked poised. He was making plays. And then week 2, he has an interception that is literally Evan Ingram's fault, and then a fumble, and we're like out on the guy. And we would have scored. And that drop by Darius Slayton, honestly,
that was a huge drop.
I'm not going to like freak out at Slayton because he has been like the biggest playmaker for Jones. But that was, like you said, that probably is a touchdown drive. And Evan Ingram, if he doesn't slip, that just ends up being an incompletion and we kick a field goal. So I know it's a lot of what ifs, but I'm not. I am still very high on Jones, and I'm not overreacting to every game, no matter what.
I'm with you on that. I'm definitely going to give him the full season before I come to a final conclusion on Jones or whether or not I think he could be the quarterback of the future or not. And so far this year, me personally, he's shown me a lot of good. I recognize there's been some bad. When I factor in everything, I've been encouraged with him, to be honest with you. I actually am more confident with Jones based off these 2 starts than last year.
I agree.
If you're somebody that just looks at the box score, you're not going to say that just because you're going to say, oh, he had 5 touchdowns against the Skins. He had 4 touchdowns against the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
But the way he played in that Steelers game, Boz, I don't think I've ever seen him play better. Outside of that one mistake, he was unbelievable when you factor in everything.
Yeah, he was and like you said, there was absolutely no run game in that game, and he just seemed to be like he's picking and choosing his battles. I know with the turnovers doesn't look like that, but this year he's been picking and choosing his battles more so, where it was always aggressive last year. Which I don't want to get rid of that, but I do like that he's been playing a little smarter. Yeah.
And Ghost of Judah, man, thank you so much. Trubisky is well-rounded. Earth is flat like Jones. Oh, God, thank you for the love, man. Congratulations to your Bears last week, my man. And Trubisky, I'll give him credit. He played pretty well last week. He made a couple of nice throws.
Matter of fact, too much credit.
Matter of fact, Bears didn't help him out. They missed on that after Jones fumbled. They had an easy touchdown in the corner of the end zone. They dropped it. Trubisky made a great throw there. Trubisky played pretty well. I'm not going to knock him. Gizola, man, thank you so much. I hope Joe Burrow lights the Eagles up. You guys see Joe Burrow play last week? Have you guys seen Burrow? What do you guys think of Burrow so far?
Joe Burrow
he's great.
is an actual team away from being a top 5 quarterback.
You think he's that good? Yeah.
I think. Well, I don't say top 5 quarterback. That's a little hyperbolic, but he's going to be in the top half 100% for most of his career. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Of quarterbacks.
What about you, Buzz? What do you think?
I mean, when they played Cleveland, I watched that game and he threw what? I think it was like 60 times, 50 or 60 times.
Yeah, I think it was
300
60,
yards and no touchdowns. I mean, not no touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, the kid has no team around him, no O-line and no defense. He gets an O-line, some wide receivers and a defense. I mean, that kid's going to be great. I mean, and that just proves like the guy came out of nowhere. Like, I mean, you don't get people like that all the time where they can just, go out and have games like that. Like every quarterback needs a team around him. Like there's only a few quarterbacks in the league who do basically something out of nothing. And, I mean, Russell Wilson's one of them. Mahomes is another one. And I can't really think of any. Maybe Aaron Rodgers is another one.
Aaron Rodgers, yeah.
Those are the only 3 I can think of that can actually do something with nothing. I mean, you look at Russell Wilson. He's been doing it for years. He's had barely an O-line at all. He had Tyler Lockett as his main receiver for the longest time. He did have a defense, but, I mean.
I say it all the time.
Even Wilson was carried at the start of his career. Like, he was carried by that awesome run game and defense to start his career.
He had the greatest secondary ever.
He wasn't anywhere near the player that he is. Like, he's playing at an MVP level, but the first, 4 or 5 years of his career, he was not playing like this at all.
No, he was a game manager for a Super Bowl that he won.
Yeah.
Now, Russell Wilson, to me, I say it all the time, I think he's the most valuable player in football. I thought he was the most valuable player in football last year. I know the stats don't indicate it, but if you take Pat Mahomes off the Chiefs, they're still winning 11 or 12 games. You've seen it with Alex Smith. Andy Reid's a phenomenal coach. If you take Russell Wilson off the Seahawks, they're winning 3 games. They're winning 4 games. He carries that team. I don't even think they have that talented of a 53-man roster. But like Boz said, there's not many quarterbacks in the league like that. 90% of quarterbacks need a good surrounding roster. Eli Manning needed a good surrounding roster, if we're being fair. And I love Eli Manning. He needed a good surrounding roster.
Yeah, with Burrow, I actually think him and Jones are pretty similar in the way they play the game. Burrow uses his legs a little more, but I think they're pretty similar. I like what I've seen. I saw week 1, even though the stats were really bad at week 1. I did like what I saw out of him, especially the last 2 drives. But I just worry that Cincinnati's going to ruin that guy. I just worry that he could be doomed in Cincinnati for a long time. But I've liked what I've seen out of Burrow.
I don't blame you, man.
In regards to the running of Burrow, do you guys think that maybe Joe Judge and Jason Garrett have kind of told Jones not to run? Because I feel like he ran a lot more last year and he's barely running at all this year. And when I watch the games, my brother and my fiance and I will sit there and we're screaming Jones, run the ball half the time. I'll see there's even on the last the Bears game when I was watching my brother and my dad, Jones probably could have ran that thing in. I mean, yeah, there was some defenders there, but I mean, it was 10 yards. I wish he would take the ball and run a little bit more. At least if he knows if a hit's coming, he can cover the ball and not fumble. He fumbles more when like you said, he's sitting and he's patting the ball in the pocket. If he's running with the ball, you saw it in the Steelers game, he covered it up with 2 hands before he got hit most of the time. And I feel like I just feel like he doesn't run as much as he did last year, and he's not improvising as much. I feel like they're kind of trying to rein him in, kind of keep him more, I don't know, simplified, trying not to let him improvise as much because they don't want him to fumble. I don't know if you guys think that.
No, you might be right about that. That's a really good point you bring up. Maybe they are trying to do that to cut down on the fumbles this year. Like Bobby was saying, I think before we went live, the Giants haven't ran a single RPO the entire year so far through 2 games, and that was something that they did last year. A lot of Giants fans were hoping for more of it. Didn't do it a ton. But Jones does have some athletic ability. That's a good point. Maybe they are trying to rein him in a little bit when it comes to running. Of course, he got hurt last year when he took off and ran with it up the middle with the high ankle sprain. So you might be onto something there. That's a good point that you bring up.
Weren't we one of the best teams in terms of efficiency with the RPO last year?
Yeah, I think he was one of the highest graded. I don't know how PFF works. And finally, by the way, and I'm going to get to that.
10.
Yeah, what the hell is that about? The PFF hates Daniel Jones.
They're going.
Don't fall for it. Don't let them bait you guys back in. Don't let them do it.
I was telling Chris this. I was like, they're going bankrupt, so they want the New York market back. So I'm going to say something good about Daniel.
Yeah, I hope so. I see Bigger Mike in the chat. Wanted to say thank you for posting my Discord. I saw that. Thank you very much. You guys could join there. Afghanistan, thank you for being here. And Zeke, man, thank you so much. He says, it's a must-win for the Giants, especially the players. We need to win games. This game is winnable. I don't disagree with that. The game is certainly winnable.
Definitely.
And in terms of building confidence, I agree. I mean, I would love to get this win. And in terms of growth, and we need to start winning football games because this team needs to learn how to win. And I'll say this:
we can't turn into the Browns.
We can't turn into the Browns.
We can't keep getting high draft picks every year. Like people always say, like, "Oh, tank for this, tank for that, tank for." Like it's just like you guys are like you want us to stay in this rut of keep continuously being bad. Like if we had a high overall pick this year, you're telling me you wouldn't rather take someone like Jamar Chase or Penny Sewell or Gregory Rousseau or the guy from Penn State, what is his name, Micah Parsons or whatever? I can't remember what his name is.
Yeah, Parsons, yeah.
You like take a player like that can actually help the entire team, and instead of just throwing away your second-year quarterback who they're already bailing on before 16 games are done, and then you have him on a rookie contract for 4 years plus the fifth-year option, and you're just going to throw him away for another rookie quarterback that has to learn the system, and then you don't even know if he's going to be good, and he still doesn't have an O-line, and we don't know what's going to happen with Saquon, still no wide receivers, still no defense. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, he can't just come in here and just block for himself and throw the ball and catch it himself. Like, it doesn't happen like that.
And
like,
I've got to
have stability on this team.
No, go ahead, Bobby.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. The whole I think Trevor Lawrence, I haven't dove super deep into him, but I don't get where this Trevor Lawrence is the greatest prospect of all. I mean, look what the last real defense he played in LSU. He sucked. He completed less than 50% of his passes.
It was off his rookie
zero
year.
touchdowns. He was Jones versus Clemson the year before was much better than Lawrence versus LSU. I mean, Mississippi, it's not the same defense, obviously, but Mississippi State just threw for 600 yards. So, this is a take I have. If they were actually going to go get a QB, why would you go get someone like Trevor Lawrence who plays from the pocket? If you the whole because people bring up Arizona, they're like, oh well, Arizona they changed it. Arizona hired a college coach who's known for things, and his love child was Kyler Murray, and they didn't realize Kyler Murray was going to come out of the draft. It was a very unique circumstance. So if they were going to actually go get a QB, why would you get someone like Trevor Lawrence? Why wouldn't you go get someone like Justin Fields, who is more like Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and just totally transform your offense? And I see someone saying Trevor can run. What the F? Yeah, but he's not he's not a scrambling. He's not a runner like Jones can run too. But you're not going to be running read option all game long like you do with some of those other QBs. So this idea that Trevor is the greatest thing to ever happen, and he's not the same play. People keep on saying Trevor can run, and this is why I'm bad at live streams, Chris, is because I'll go off on the chat.
No, do what you got to do, man. Do what you got to do.
He's not a runner. He can run, but at the NFL level, he will not be running the ball 8-9 times a game the way Lamar Jackson would, or they're not predicating their offense on his legs. So, anyways.
Yeah, I agree. He's not going to be a run-first quarterback. I think he's a guy that could use his. I think he ran for over 500 yards last year. He could definitely run, but like you said,
quarterbacks now.
Yeah, Daniel Jones is like that too. And I don't remember his stats off the top of my head, but I think he had a game where he ran for over 150 yards, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. So he was able to run in college too. I don't think Lawrence you're going to bring it. He's not. I get what you're saying. He's not Kyler Murray in terms of his legs. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not that type of quarterback. Chizola, man, thank you so much for love. He says our fan base is a bunch of. And he's got 20 stars after it. So obviously, I don't know what you mean by that. Maybe you mean pussies. Maybe you mean great people. I don't know what you meant by that. So I'm gonna assume that it was derogatory. But Giselle, man, thanks so much for love. JB says I don't want to see Corey Ballantyne at all. You probably won't. You will a little bit, but they're starting to phase him out. I forgot who told me the stat. It might have been Bobby when I watched one of his videos. I don't remember. He played 90% of the snaps the first week. The second week, he only played 50%. So they're starting to phase him out. I think the New York Giants are starting to see that he's not getting it done. And I don't even want to get on Ballantyne. It's not his fault. He was not supposed to be a guy we relied on to be the starting cornerback. It just so happens we had an idiot on our football team. And then we go out, we try to bring in Yadam, and the Giants are kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I also think, you guys were talking about earlier that you didn't like what, the Giants weren't blitzing so much on third down. They were only sending 3 guys. I think the part of it has to do with the fact that we have such a bad second cornerback that they need to do everything they possibly can to try to help that guy out in passing situations. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Nick says, Dana broke my finger in a game yesterday. Oh, God, Nick, I hope you feel better, man. Thank you so much for being here. And Chizola says, yeah, Burrow had 3 touchdowns and A.J. Green had a trash game. Burrow looked legit, man. I really want Jones to run a lot more, Chizola says. See, all right, I want to get your guys' take on this. I personally, and I do want to see them use Jones's legs more. I want to see the play action rollouts. I do want to see a little bit of RPOs. I don't want my quarterback taking off and running the ball 8 to 10 times a game because when you do that, 1, you're risking fumbles. 2, you're definitely putting yourself at a higher risk for an injury. Right. But I'll get your we'll start with Bobby on that. What's your take on Daniel Jones and trying to use his legs more in the running game?
Yeah, I'm 100%. They should do some RPOs. 1, it just keeps the defense more honest. Do some RPOs. I feel like he's actually done a good job picking and choosing when to get out of the pocket. But at the end of the day, and like you said, unless you're those QBs we just mentioned, the game still will be won from the pocket. So I like that that's where he's comfortable operating and where when there's pressure, he doesn't feel like, oh, I got to scramble and get out. He's very comfortable under pressure. So I do want him running more in the sense of having some design stuff or even the threat of design stuff. So yeah, I'm on board with you. I don't want him running 8 to 10 times a game, but keep defenses honest. We have the legs. I mean, his first touchdown in the NFL was on a read option. So why not make defenses respect that?
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to overdo it, but I do want to use it from time to time. Stephen Lilly from across the pond, all the way from the UK. What time is it right now? It is 9:31 here, which means it is 1:31. It's 5 hours ahead. I'm bad at math. 2:31 over in the UK, man. You're the man. Thank you for being here. He says, let's go Giants. Let's go and stick these 49ers hippies in the trash. Number 56, the GOAT. Love it. Absolutely love it. And thank you to everybody for being here. Wow, Chris, you said do what you got to do when he said he would have gone off on the chat. Robert, man, listen, man. I'm a YouTuber myself, man, and sometimes you got to vent. I vented in my Daniel Jones video. Sometimes you got to get it off your chest, right, Bobby?
Yeah, and that's the thing is these live streams, you're good at them. I would eventually lose my mind. I love it because I think it's fun. But I would be like that, the radio host who just loses it on a call, or, and now the chat's gonna start trolling me, trying to get that out of me. So I respect that. Like I said, I tell our listeners, hey, if you want to leave a prank call, just don't curse. We'll put it on the show every time. So, I love them for it.
Yo, Chris, how you been? What's going on, Brooke, man? Thanks for popping in the stream, man. Let's see what we got here. I think we should think about bringing Kaepernick into that won't happen. All right.
No, I'm kidding.
I'm completely for him getting a job, but here's the thing, and I'm not even just talking about him specifically. If you bring in a high-profile quarterback, which is what he is, you're trying to develop Daniel Jones, and listen. Think about this, Bobby. Think about this, everybody. We already have fans that are talking about tanking for Trevor just 2 games into Daniel Jones' second year and his 14th start. If we had a guy like Kaepernick or Tebow, just insert high-profile backup quarterback here on the roster. The second Daniel Jones fumbles tomorrow, they're going to be calling for him to come into the game. That's going to hurt. We can't be doing that in Daniel Jones' second year. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, there's just no reason for any team that doesn't have, I'm trying to think a Lamar. If you have a Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, or someone who's hey, this guy is the guy 100%. There's just no reason to bring them in. I mean, it's been a few years. And we all know how things went down with him. But yeah, cap to the Giants wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Plus, we're already paying Colt McCoy $2+ million as a backup, anyways.
Yeah, good point there. Chizola says DJ played on Duke, a low team, and he came to the Giants, who suck. Trevor played for Clemson, and if he comes to the Giants, he's going to get obliterated. Listen, here's what I'm going to say. I think whoever comes to the Giants, until such time we fix this offensive line, I don't care if it's Tom Brady in his prime. I don't care if we can't block, and I think we will. I think the offensive line will be better next year, which is why I want to see Daniel Jones get an opportunity with that offensive line as it matures and gets better. But in the current state that the New York Giants offensive line is in and the offense is in, I don't think Trevor Lawrence would come in here and win football games. Maybe he wins an extra game, but this offensive line is really bad. And our weapons, I mean, who do we got? Who do we really got, guys? We all like Slayton, but outside of Slayton, who do we have? We don't have a supreme weapon. So I just feel like it's not fair to get. We can't really get a fair evaluation of Daniel Jones right now, especially with Barkley out, the offensive line playing the way it is. I think people need to wait till midseason and hope this offensive line gets better and then we actually get to see what Daniel Jones can be in this offense.
I worry about any of these college QBs who play at the big programs because it's easy for them. It really is. And we saw Trevor Lawrence in the national championship game. When it got tough, he played a really good defense that had more talent than his offense. He completed less than 50% of his passes, didn't have a single touchdown pass. I mean, he looked lost. So that's why I love Tua's talent. I don't know what Tua's going to be. So I like to see guys who play Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, who didn't play at premier programs that had premier talent around them. Daniel Jones at Duke. If you look at the guys who are successful in the NFL, it's very rarely they come from a big school like that. Let's go. The playoffs last year. Patrick Mahomes, Texas Tech. Jimmy Garoppolo, Eastern Illinois. Aaron Rodgers, California. Who was the AFC Championship?
AFC.
Ryan Tannehill,
Tannehill,
Texas A&M. Lamar Jackson, Louisville. It goes on. It's not the guys that are winning at the big schools. So, not to say it can't be done. Like Kyler Murray has looked really good out of Oklahoma. Burrow had a rough week 1, a decent week 2. So maybe he can change that. But we also see guys come in and play good early, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work out. So.
Listen, I've been watching football for a really long time. There's been so many slam dunk quarterbacks, and some of them work out, some of them don't. I don't care how good he looks. He is far from a sure thing. I'm sorry, he just is. Eli Manning's probably the best number 1 pick in the last 20 years, and most people would tell you that Eli Manning is a good quarterback, not a great quarterback.
He's the only one that's won a Super Bowl.
He's the only one that's won a Super Bowl, and you could say Andrew Luck, but Andrew Luck only played for 7 or 8 years because his offensive line was horrible. Eli Manning was the best number 1 pick probably since Peyton, and I'm not just talking about the quarterback position. I'm talking about overall. Because when you go to a bad team with the number 1 overall pick, especially at the quarterback position, a position that relies on everyone else around him, it's hard to succeed. Think about all the number 1 overall picks: Carr, Jamarcus Russell. There's so many. There's been so many. Baker Mayfield so far doesn't look good. There's been so many number 1 overall picks that just don't work out. So that's why I continue to say he is far from a sure thing.
Chris, look at that 2018 QB class. And I kind of believed in a few of those guys where it's we'll never see a QB class like that. The first 3 guys look like they suck. Rosen is clearly trash.
Yeah.
Arnold, I get that he doesn't have weapons around him, but Darnold has not just looked like he doesn't have weapons around him, he has looked bad. And his bad games, like Jones' bad games are he fumbled and had an interception. Darnold's already has 5 interceptions and 0 points on Monday Night Football. And then Baker has been very up and down, but I'm not a Baker believer. And it looks like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson clearly is the best out of that. And Josh Allen is the one who in year 3, who I believe in giving a QB year 3, unless he's total trash, like Haskins probably. Year 3, he's the one that seems to be taking the biggest step forward from year 2. So, we get these draft things in our head, and everyone said Haskins was better than Jones. That's why I just can't get into draft stuff until I actually watch guys.
Yeah, and that's why I continue to say let's give Jones a real chance. Chisholm says Trevor coming from a good O-line to ours. Yeah, that would definitely be a problem. Tom, what's going on, man? In retrospect, should the G-Men have drafted Becton? Okay, no. Here's what I'm going to say, Tom.
Way too early to even.
It's way too early. And the other thing, people are saying Becton looks great. I know Bobby did a video on that. I'll have Boz start with this because I haven't heard from him in a bit. But so far, it's only been 2 games, and Andrew Thomas has looked pretty good. And you also have to factor in who Andrew Thomas was going up against. You're talking about 2 of the greatest pass rushers in football. He was going up against Mack. He was going up against who do we play? Dupree. He was going up against Watt. You're going up against some unbelievable edge rushers, and he's played pretty well. Becton's looked very good for the Jets, so I'm not going to deny that. Boz, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I think Andrew Thomas, he went up against Bud Dupree in week 1. I don't know if he ever went up against TJ Watt, any of those snaps, but I think he just went up against Bud Dupree primarily. And then he had a mix of Robert Quinn and Khalil Mack, who, are top 10 edge rushers in their own right. And then you look at who Becton went up against. He went up against Nick Bosa, but he went down right in the beginning of the game. And then they didn't have D Ford. So he was going up against backups the most of that game. And then didn't they play the Bills week 1, I think?
Yeah, they did. Did the Jets play I can't even. Yes, I think they did.
I can't remember who the Jets played week 1. I think they played the Bills.
Yeah.
And
the Bills have a great defense, but they don't have a supreme edge rusher.
They don't have a supreme edge rusher. They have good interior guys, but Becton has not gone up against the same competition that Andrew Thomas has gone up against. You look at what he did with Bud Dupree. If he when he was actually blocked, and not just left unblocked. He did a great job. Like there were a couple pass sets where he held him in real nice. He had nice hand placement, nice footwork and everything, and just kept him right in front of him and really protected Daniel Jones. Yeah, against Robert Quinn and Khalil Mack, obviously he let Quinn in for the sack that caused the fumble. But I mean, aside from that, I mean, you look at an O-line, like an O-line takes a lot longer for them to gel with everyone next to him, especially like with Thomas being with Will Hernandez and then with Nick Gates and everything. They all have to communicate and they all have to work as one unit. So, I mean, you look at that whole offensive line, Andrew Thomas has really been one of the better offensive line on that unit. And for a rookie, I mean, he's looked great. I mean, what I don't know what you can really expect. I mean, you look at him compared to our last first-round offensive lineman selection and Eric Flowers, and it's literally night and day. So, I mean, you can't look at Andrew Thomas and say, oh, well, should we have taken this person or this person or this person? Because you look at, Mekhi Becton's been great. Jedrick Wills isn't even he's hurt, so he's not even playing. And then you have
Tristan
Wirfs on the Buccaneers, who, I mean, has he really done anything that great? I mean, I think Andrew Thomas, obviously, you have Becton who's done really good, but I think he was probably the best tackle you could have got out of that draft so far. I mean, going by the teams he's played and the elite pass rushers he's gone up against, you can't really say anything differently. I mean, I feel like he's shown us that he at least is a capable left tackle, and his ceiling, he still hasn't reached that point where he's gotten to like a ceiling. So he can only go up from here, really. I mean, yeah, he can go down, but I mean, he's facing the top competition right now, and he's semi-holding his own for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, what we're talking about with Jones, it goes for Thomas as well. I mean, it's a completely new scheme. You're going up against two of the best defenses in football. The Steelers last year led the league in sacks. They had 54 sacks last year. They were number one in the league. They were first in forced fumbles as well. Credit to Jones, didn't fumble against them. But Andrew Thomas held his own in that game. As a matter of fact, he was our best offensive lineman against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think Andrew Thomas has been fine. And the other thing I'll say is this: if Becton turns out to be this great offensive lineman, hats off. That's great. As long as Andrew Thomas is a very good offensive lineman and a guy we could depend on the left side for the next 10, 15 years, which is what you hope for when you take a tackle in the top 4 picks, I'm happy. If we get a top 8, 9, 10 tackle for 10 to 15 years on the left side
fine with that, yeah.
With that pick, I'm happy because it's something the New York Giants haven't had for the last 8, 9, 10 years with Eli Manning. So, but yeah, I'm still happy with the Thomas pick. I think it made a lot of sense. I thought he was the safest offensive lineman when they were selected. So yeah. I'm happy with it.
So what happens with Nate Solder next year? Is he going to be on the team, or what's going on with that situation?
As far as Solder goes, I looked at his contract after he opted out. I think they could still cut him. I don't think it's like an insane cap hit. I think the Giants are going to cut him. I'd be shocked if they don't. I think that you're going to see Parrott on the right side, and I think Solder will either retire or be cut by the New York Giants.
Yeah, to go back on the Thomas Becton, week 1, Thomas, shut down Dupree. He had one bad play that he didn't end up in a sack, and then Becton, he was good. He's definitely better in the run game, but he gave up a sack. He got beat inside on a couple of run plays that ended up in negative plays, and then week 2, I feel like they kind of swapped a little bit, where like Thomas gave up the sack, and then had a couple other bad plays in the pass game, where Becton was really impressive. So they've kind of been a stalemate. I like both of them. I like Thomas. My order was Thomas, Wills, Becton, but I said before the draft I would have been happy with all 3 of them. Wirfs is a good player, but I wouldn't have been excited for Wirfs.
Yeah, Wirfs seemed more like kind of like an Isaiah Simmons type guy, a guy that was a combine warrior, a great athlete with a lot of upside, but seemed like a little bit of a little risk.
I feel like he can be an all-time guard. That's my thoughts on Wirfs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what most of the people said about him. Yeah,
I just looked up Nate Solder's contract thing because we were talking about it, and actually we would save $2.6 million if we cut him next year. So I don't see why he would even be on the team next year, to be honest.
Yeah, we're gonna cut him. I'd be shocked.
I mean, if we're gonna save money, I mean, you might as well just cut him. I mean, there's no point in keeping him on the team. I mean, especially if Thomas, can prove that he can actually, perform at the same level he is now, at least. I mean, he's performing better than Nate Solder would right now. So there's no point in keeping Nate Solder just to put him on the right side if you think that if Matt Parrott decides, they decide they want to start him, halfway through the season and he performs halfway decent, I don't see that there's any way Nate Solder stays on this team. I don't see it.
Let me ask you, David, because we're talking about continuity on the offensive line. When do you think we see Parrott? When do you want to see Parrott this year?
I don't have an X amount of time or X week, but I'll ask everyone this: could he possibly do any worse than what Fleming is doing right now? Like, why not put him out there right now? Iron sharpens iron. I think the best way to get him up to the task would be to be playing him, or maybe he just hasn't grasped the concept of playing with that line yet, or something that we don't know. But he couldn't possibly be doing worse than Cam Fleming is, could he?
I think with Parrott, I think the main thing that is the concern is coming out of UConn. He's not. I don't think he's the size of what an NFL tackle should be. I think he's still a little like he's not. He doesn't have that strength that an NFL tackle should have. I think probably Parrott is a guy they kind of want to keep on the bench and kind of have him, go through an NFL season, an NFL offseason, and bulk up and get that size to be an NFL tackle. Because you look at the guy, and he barely even looks like an offensive tackle. Like he looks almost like a slender defensive lineman or a tight end. Yeah,
he looks like a basketball player.
He doesn't look like an NFL offensive tackle. And I mean, you have to let that guy put on 10, 20 pounds of muscle, and that guy he'll be ready. I think that's the main thing that they're worried about, is that he's, maybe he's not as strong to perform at an NFL level at the tackle. But I know Bobby probably knows more about that, so I'll let him, give his thoughts on that.
Parrott, man, he's the player where it's like, if they start him, like half of me would be like, ooh, that's kind of reckless going this early. Another half would be like, bring it. Let me see the guy. Let's see what we have. Mm-hmm. What sucks is we didn't have a preseason to judge him off of. So we're kind of just blind to, like, he could be horrible. And but we're, banging the table for him, where that's what sucks about not getting a preseason, is where we could at least have like a baseline of what we think he is in year one. So he may, if they were to start him tomorrow, he could come in and be horrible. He could come in and exceed our expectations. It's just hard for me to have a take because I've never seen him have an NFL rep yet.
It's a great point. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I'll say is we're going up against some of the best pass rushers the league has to offer the first 6 weeks of the year. Probably not the best time to put somebody in there that you think still needs room for growth. I think we will see Parrott this year, but I'm thinking more the second half of the season. I think the Giants
when it starts to ease up a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that's when I think it will be the appropriate time to get him some reps. Fix the O-line, man. Thank you so much. Love that username, by the way. Probably my favorite username on YouTube. He says, it's not just Daniel Jones. If we lose to this beat-up 49ers team, the bloom will be off the Joe Judge rose. Maybe by some people, and maybe some writers will start to question whether Joe Judge. Here's what I'm going to say, man. Not me either, and I don't think anybody here. Here's what I'm going to say about Joe Judge, and I keep saying it. There's only so much a coach can do. It's a young roster. They're learning new schemes. Let's talk about a couple of things he can control. The New York Giants have committed the fewest penalty yards in all of football. The team has fought. They were down 17-0 at the half last week. They had every reason to quit.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
The team came out and they played their asses off. So far, they've only committed one defensive penalty all year, and that was an offsides penalty. They've only committed 7 penalties for a total of 45 yards once, which was intentional. So this team is coming out. They're prepared. They're playing hard. There's not much more I could ask from Joe Judge. If I want to get nitty-gritty with him last week, one play that I thought was dumb, it wasted a timeout. We may have been able to get a field goal before the half, was when they came out on the 4th down and they called the timeout when they tried to run down the clock rather than taking the 5 yards before they punted. Had they had that timeout, maybe you get closer than 57 yards for Gano to kick the field goal before the half. So that is one, you want me to get nitpicky. But overall, I love what Judge has done so far. This team looks like they got their head on straight and they're fighting for him. So I've said it all along. I don't care if they go 1-15, 2-14 this year. I am not going to judge on wins and losses, no pun intended, his first year as the New York Giants head coach. I'm going to give him at least 3 years as a fan personally before I start to do that, because we cannot have consistent.
We can't keep doing
turnover.
This over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you look at it like you said with the Bears game, we were down 17-0. You look under Pat Shurmur and you look under Ben McAdoo, that team, we would have lost 40-0 if it was under them. That team would have given up 100%. When they went into that locker room and they came out after halftime, because I remember I'm sitting next to my fiance and she's saying, like, she's worrying because I'm getting so mad at this team because they looked so bad. And then they come out in the second half, that it was a brand new team. Like it was like it was a brand new game. When I was watching that game, when they came back out, you could see that they were a brand new team. Like Joe Judge really went in there and basically like he had said when he restarted practice, like he restarted that game. He made that team want to win, and we came out wanting to win. Like seeing that, even if we lose this next week and the next week and the next week, this team actually looks like they care and they want to fight. Like they want to play for Joe Judge. They look like they actually care about playing for him. It's not like any of the other teams where it literally looked like they had given up on the coaching. They'd given up on the team in general, and they didn't care about winning. Like when you watch this team and they did interviews when Pat Shurmur was the coach or Ben McAdoo, you could tell this team was defeated. Like they had no purpose to win a game. They had no purpose to even play half the time. Most of the time, they all just sounded like it was just kind of going through the motions. Like when they speak after games with Joe Judge or even after practices, you can tell that these players, like, they want to play for this guy. Like, he is a player's coach. And you need that kind of guy especially for a team that's one of the youngest rosters in the NFL. To get a team like that who's that young coming out of college or whatever, to get them to try to fight back in a game that they could have easily given up on, down 17-0 at half, like that says something. Like you can't just give up on somebody because they started off a season 0-3. Even if we, I don't think we're going to start off 0-3, but if we do start off 0-3, you can't look at these last games and say to yourself that Joe Judge hasn't at least made this team look like they want to compete and that this team can't be competitive in the future.
Yeah, well, beautifully said. And I just want to make sure I don't miss this. Stephen Lilly says, our O-line lets defensive players through. It makes zero holes at the running backs, and Ingram slips and drops the ball. What do they think DJ can do? Build the lines. I mean, Stephen, you're preaching to the choir. I mean, the offense it's just without the offensive line, we're not going to be able to do anything on offense. Bottom, period, end of story. And that's the way it's been for 8 years. And until such time that gets going, and I think it will over the second half of the year, this offense will struggle. But I think it will get better. I think it's going to be similar to like 2018 over the second half of the year. I want, but I just want to make sure I don't lose these super chats. So then I want Bobby and David also to talk further on Joe Judge. Says, oh, man, I appreciate it. He says, man, I wish I had Jamarcus's arms. Anyone would. Yeah, he definitely had the physical tools. He just had a huge gut. And Tom Dye says, did David Kniezel fall asleep? I guess he sees you with your head down. Let's go.
The hat.
Yeah, let's start with you, David. Then we're going to go to Bobby. What do you think of the job that Joe Judge has done so far for the New York Giants? Do you have anything that you don't like? Let me ask you that.
Not really, because what I've been seeing from him is something that the past few coaches haven't given me. For the first time since probably Tom Coughlin, I have hope for this team, and I feel like we're headed towards greener pastures. We're headed towards an actual team. Like how Boss said, they're actually playing for him. They're not giving up at halftime. With Pat Shurmur, he was like a super bland guy. Like I don't know if you guys got that same feeling from him, but if I was one of those players too, like if I would see my coach not give as much effort as I would on the field or look that bland, it would just get to me too.
Yeah. What about you, Bobby? What's your take on Judge so far?
It's hard to really have a takeaway after 2 weeks, especially when we have a head coach who's not an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator where you can scrutinize their play call. So hard to have a take on him. I didn't hate Shurmur as much as everybody else. He definitely had flaws, and I was happy they moved on because you lose 9 games in a row. You something's got to change. But I actually liked the way he used DJ and kept DJ aggressive. Garrett has reined that in. Part of me thinks that's because it was Pittsburgh and Chicago. So I'm really interested to see how he attacks this San Francisco game because we should be taking chances against San Francisco. So it's Garrett I have been underwhelmed by, but like I said, it's 2 games. I refuse to overreact to 2 games. And then Patrick Graham I've been really thrilled with. There's been times where I've been like he could have done stuff better, but overall I've been really happy with what Patrick Graham has done. With Judge, it's just impossible to judge, no pun intended, a coach after 2 games.
Yeah, or even 1 year, in my opinion, with a team like this, you have to give him a fair evaluation. I was kind of with you on Shurmur. A lot of people thought I was crazy, and I don't think Shurmur was a good coach. Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't have been upset if the Giants brought him back. Just for the sake of Daniel Jones alone, Daniel Jones played well under Pat Shurmur. Pat Shurmur was known as a quarterback guy. And that was kind of my line of thinking at the end of the year. So
he let him be aggressive. I feel like a lot of coaches take these rookie QBs and try and turn them into dink and dunkers. And there's times where you do need the dink and dunk. Like I said, I'm repeating myself, but I love Daniel Jones' aggressiveness. But going into Pittsburgh and Chicago, I was saying, hey, let's kind of dink and dunk a little bit because of how good these defenses are. But if we're doing that against other teams, then that's when I'll start to get a little worried about Garrett.
I don't think we will, to be honest with you. I really don't. I think we're going to take shots down the field. I think it was circumstantial, like you said, because of the defenses we were going up against and the inexperience of the offensive line.
Right.
But I could be wrong. And then at that point, I agree. All right, here's what I'll say. By the second half of the year, when this offensive line has time to gel and they're still dinking and dunking, I'll start to worry then.
Yeah.
I'll agree.
I said at the beginning of the stream, I'm cool with Daniel Jones throwing interceptions if he's out there taking chance and being a gunslinger. So I don't think that his mindset changed from what he's been in an offseason. So I agree with you. I think it was circumstantial these first two games. Yeah. And it was smart the first two games to do that too.
What choice do you have? They were there in 2 seconds. You got to get rid of the football.
Yeah.
Malik, man, thank you so much. He says, given the context, DJ and Judge have been all right. By the way, for a second-round pick, who are you taking, Thielen or Allen? I'm trying. Oh, are you talking about Keenan Allen, Malik?
Maybe Allen Robinson.
Or Allen Robinson. Oh, maybe he's talking about Allen Robinson. I don't know Thielen's contract. I know he's like 31, 32. Not to mention, I'm not a fan of Thielen. Thielen's a good receiver. I'm not a fan of bringing him to the New York Giants. He's the same thing that we say we have too many of. He's a slot guy.
We already have 2 slot receivers, yeah.
Yeah, so I would much rather have a guy that could play on the outside like Allen Robinson as opposed to Adam Thielen.
Would you want to pay the $18 million he wants, though?
He said Keenan Allen.
Oh, Keenan Allen. I would still take Keenan Allen over Adam Thielen.
Keenan Allen plays in the slot also, doesn't he? Or primarily in the slot?
I feel like he plays outside. But
yeah, I think
sure.
he's an outside.
I think he plays outside, yeah.
Yeah,
he's a bigger guy. He's 6'2".
Yeah.
But you look at Allen Robinson, and he's the kind of guy that we need. We need a 50-50 ball receiver, someone we can throw the ball into the end zone, and they can go up, and we can trust them that they can come down with it. I mean, yeah, Darius Slayton, he's only 6'1". We don't have a tall receiver on this team. And, I mean, Benjamin Victor, I think that was the guy who was 6'5"?
Yeah, he was 6'4".
That was the one guy I was kind of pulling for to be on the team. We need a guy who's tall like that. We need that was what Burris was to Eli Manning. You need someone who can go up and catch those 50-50 balls. And we don't have, Slayton can be that guy who's we need kind of like a Mike Evans, Chris Godwin type thing with the Giants. We need something like that to have Slayton be like a Godwin. Then we need someone to be like a Mike Evans. We need someone to be able to be that bona fide number one who can go up and catch the 50-50 ball, who can be a bona fide end zone threat. We need someone like that. Slayton can be the big play guy, but we need that guy who we can count on for consistent catches.
Throw the ball up and come down and grab it. Yeah.
Yeah, just to throw the ball up to.
Yeah, I agree. We definitely need a tall threat, especially in this offense. When you talk about the Garrett offense. And I want to make sure I get his name right. I think it's the Happy Huntsman. I see him comment on my videos a lot. Thank you for being a great subscriber. He says David Sills' injury was so unlucky. I completely agree. David Sills was a guy I was really rooting for. I think he was a guy that people forgot about going into training camp. And we're talking about tall wide receivers. David Sills was killing it by all accounts at training camp. Of course, we don't get to see it. But that is a guy that I thought really could have actually had a pretty decent role with this football team. You got Bobby. What do you think about Sills? You think?
Yeah, I remember we talked about him because everyone was talking about Mac, Victor, and Dylan, the undrafted free agents. But if Sills were to come in with that group, I mean, he was super productive in college. He had the size. He's a former QB, so yeah, I'm not predicting Sills would have been great, but I was definitely excited to see him, and I wanted him to make the roster.
Yeah, I think he would have been exactly what Boz was talking about, or potentially. I shouldn't say, because Ramses Barton was a guy that everybody was saying, he could be the next Burris, and we all remember what happened to him. But he was at least a guy that had the possibility of being that tall threat in the red zone. David Biago, man, thank you so much. He says, being that we don't have an alpha pass rusher and the sacks are coming by committee, who will lead the team in sacks this year? People ask me this all offseason in terms of who's going to be the sack leader, and you look at the Patriots last year. Their sack leader, I think, was Jamie Collins with 7.5. Yet they had 48 team sacks, and I think they were 5th or 6th in the entire league. And I think it's going to be the same thing here, and it's what you've seen so far through the first 2 weeks. B.J. Hill's got a sack. Lorenzo Carter's got a sack. Leo's got a sack. Lawrence has a sack. I think they got 6 guys with 1 sack. And I don't think you're going to have a guy with more than 7, maybe 8 sacks, but you're going to have a bunch of guys with 4 or more. That's my take with the New York Giants. I think it's going to be a sack by committee approach. if I had to pick one guy, I'd probably go with Lorenzo Carter. It seems like he's getting the bulk of the minutes on the outside.
Yeah.
Maybe Dexter Lawrence. Maybe Lawrence gets his 6.5, 7 sacks. He's played very well. Maybe Leonard Williams. But I would go with Carter. What about you, David? Who do you think will lead the team in sacks?
I think it'll definitely be Lorenzo Carter or Williams. I want to see the three of them together though. Sexy Dexy, Williams, and Carter out there a lot more often.
Let me ask you this, Bobby, because next year I think the Giants are going to be at a crossroads with the defensive line, especially the way Leonard Williams is playing. Leonard Williams played great. Who do you keep if you're the Giants? Because Dalvin Tomlinson and Williams are both going to be free agents. The Giants are only going to have so much cap space, especially with the cap space probably going to be frozen due to the pandemic. What do you do there if you're the New York Giants?
I hate to do it because we are like, at some point we got to just keep our good players. But I feel like you kind of have to think about moving on from Dalvin, and might be like we talk about trade deadline. He could be a guy they move on from the trade deadline because they have too much invest with Leonard Williams, and he's just a better player than Dalvin. But I mean, this defensive line rotation is just too deep. I mean, you have Dexter Lawrence, like you said, Leonard Williams. Those guys are going to be around, and BJ Hill is like as good of a fourth option as you can get, and I would be very comfortable with him being the third option. Hell, I even like RJ McIntosh for what his role is. So to have like that surplus of goods there, like that's what makes me think we might move on from Dalvin.
Yeah.
What are you accepting for Dalvin? Someone called your office. You're the GM. What do you want for Dalvin?
Optimistic mind says second or third, but I have no clue what the offer would be, you know. But if it depends. Do they plan on just letting him walk in free agency? Because if they do, then you take whatever you can get.
Or you could get a comp pick, depending on what he'd get paid.
That's true too.
You get a third for him, probably, right?
What did you say, boss?
What I think is going to happen, I mean, you look at it, was he drafted by Gettleman? I don't think he was.
No, he was drafted by Reese.
So, like you said, Chris, like if Gettleman's in that mode where he's like, I got to save my job, I could see a situation where you try to trade for a receiver and you use Dalvin as like a sweetener in a deal.
I would love that.
To put him over the edge to get a number one receiver.
That's a great point.
I could see Gettleman doing that because he didn't draft him. I could see him and Gallman being included in something like that. You give him a pick, Dalvin and Gallman, and then you get a number one wide receiver back. I could see Dave Gettleman trying to do something like that to try to save his job halfway through the season. The only thing that kind of makes me think that it wouldn't happen is that he was elected captain. But aside from that, he has no ties to Gettleman. Gettleman doesn't feel like he needs to re-sign him. And
he's not the most versatile player either.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, you could use him as kind of a pot sweetener for a team. You know, we'll give you this, and then Dalvin.
And I love Dalvin Tomlinson. I don't want anybody to think I
do too. Yeah. I do too. But I just don't see how he fits in with Leonard Williams with what you've given up for him, and then Dexter Lawrence. He looks incredible. Like for an interior nose tackle, like he's about all you could ask for.
Yeah, he's on another level.
But I mean, he's. You know, you look at Dalvin Tomlinson. He's kind of the odd man out. Sad to say, with how good he is, but I definitely could see him being used as a trade piece to try to save Gettleman's job for trying to get a number one wide receiver.
Sam says no one is going to trade for Dalvin. I mean, I might agree with him being the primary piece, but kind of what Boz said, where he's a part of the deal, I could see that.
Yeah,
I think that's a good point you brought up there. Anthony, man, thank you so much. He says if we are looking at free agent wide receivers for next year, Juju has to be the top target if he hits the market, which is a huge if. Robinson is a good second option. Listen, Juju Smith-Schuster, I think he's going to hit the market, and I could be wrong. He's playing very well with the Steelers, but the Steelers went out there. They drafted Chase Claypool, the wide receiver, and if you look at the Steelers historically, the Steelers don't pay their wide receivers. They let Plaxico Burress go. They let Santonio Holmes go. They let Antonio Brown go. Of course, he was in a straitjacket, but the Steelers historically don't pay their wide receivers. So I do think there's a good chance Juju Smith-Schuster hits the open market. The question is, are the New York Giants going to be willing to pony up $18 million a year for a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster? Because that's what he's going to be asking for.
And he's another slot receiver.
He's a slot receiver. He's a guy that could play a little bit in both, but he's definitely best in the slot.
I think Allen Robinson's better than Juju. You can have a difference of opinion, but I actually think Allen's better than Juju.
I think I prefer for the Giants. I think I agree with you. I think I prefer Allen Robinson. The thing is, though, I think we're going to cut Tate. I think we're going to save $5 million by cutting Tate. And who knows how long Shepard's going to be here with all the injuries. So who knows what the Giants' plan is going to be in terms of wide receiver. But I am with you guys. I would much prefer a guy on the outside. And Juju is definitely better in the slot. He's shown he can do both, but he's better situated in the slot. So good point by you, Bobby. Simon says, isn't Jones the most pressured quarterback right now? People forget Daniel Jones has been pressured. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Maybe somebody knows that. I think it's 56 times this year. Daniel Jones?
The PFF numbers are wrong. Look at Pro Football Reference. I can't remember, but week 1 he was number 1. He went down considerably. The PFF numbers are really inflated, and it didn't because I saw those numbers. I was like, that doesn't make sense. But I guess I could look it up right now. But he's still being Chicago. He wasn't pressured that much. Where Pittsburgh, he was pressured damn near every freaking play.
Oh my God, Pittsburgh was ridiculous.
Let me see if I can find it.
Cox wants to know. Cox is very, very against. He wants to move on from DJ. He says, "You four guys tell me what's special about Daniel Jones. His arms, his legs, his pocket presence. What's good about him?" We'll start with you, Bobby, as you're looking that up. Respond to Cox on that.
Well, first he's been pressured 22 times. Anyways, what do I like about Jones? One, his mindset. I really think that's once he has the accuracy. He doesn't have some laser arm, but his arm is capable to make every throw besides the Patrick Mahomes type throws. His accuracy is there, so those are the prerequisites to play quarterback in the NFL. Now, his willingness to go downfield, how he deals with pressure, how it just a lot of QBs just cannot handle the heat. He can. His mindset, his work ethic to constantly get better. He's a lot like the greats. And I think that really is something that us on the outside don't get to see that much. It is what sets people apart. It's not about your arm strength and stuff like that. That stuff helps, but your work ethic is what sets you apart. He has the legs. I think he's got everything to deal with the New York market. And I mean, look at his rookie year. He was on pace for the rookie touchdown record. Let's not forget what he did last year after 2 games. So those are the things I like about Daniel Jones.
He threw 19 touchdowns in his last 7 games. I say it all the time. It's pretty ridiculous. But, I think you brought up – I was going to bring that up. I think I say it all the time, and it's not just with football. It's with New York sports in general. Not every player is cut out to play in New York. That was one thing that was very underrated about Eli Manning. I think Daniel Jones possesses a similar skill set with that. His ability to not get bothered by the New York media. And a lot of players do. I think Jones is cut out for that. Not every quarterback in the league would be. You have to factor that in as well. I think that was a really good point you brought up.
He's like a psycho with that. He just stuff you can tell. You can tell people the outside noise doesn't bother me. It flat out just doesn't. You could tell when they ask him questions, he just was it's very Eli-like. How the fact he has social media, but he hasn't had one real tweet since he was drafted. He has not had one tweet where he's this is my opinion on anything. It's all been ads or something that was written up for him to say. So I love that about the guy. I know people want them to be flashy and stuff. I like that about Jones, and I think he's very similar to Eli in that fact.
Yeah, I agree with that. David, what about you? What's your take on Daniel Jones? What do you see in him that's, I guess, above average?
When we first drafted him, it was a completely different story to where we are right now. Because a lot like Boz, my day was basically ruined when we took him number 6 over Josh Allen that year. But now that I've seen him, I've experienced his play, I'd say that he's good or average at everything that an NFL quarterback needs. That being said, I'm not saying he can't get better or he's not going to be better than what he's at right now, but he has everything needed to succeed in the NFL, if you will.
Yeah, I agree. Boz, what about you? Anything to add to
that? With Daniel Jones, I mean, kind of like how Bobby said, he has the temperament for New York. You can tell that this guy, everything just bounces off of him. Everything the media says, even if they try to word things to kind of make it sound like he did it, to try to make it sound like it's worse than what it actually is. The guy, and not only that, when you watch him, he's not afraid to take a hit. He gets slammed back there, and it reminds me kind of Eli, when he would get absolutely rocked in the pocket, and he'll get right back up. I mean, yeah, he did have one injury, but the guy, he'll take a hit. Like, he's not afraid. Like, he'll step up in the pocket and throw the ball, and he'll get slammed by an edge rusher, and he'll get right back up and go into the next play. And you look at, like, the way he throws the ball when we, like, are going up against, like, good defenses like Pittsburgh and the Bears. Like, our receivers aren't getting a lot of separation. And his ball placement, his accuracy, I mean, you don't find that with a lot of quarterbacks a lot. Like, he has very good accuracy and very good ball placement. And he has the arm to make all the throws that you would need to make. And I look at Jones, like, he has a lot of room to develop. Like, yes, the turnovers suck. Yes, the fumbles suck. But every quarterback's going to go through that, regardless if it's Trevor Lawrence, regardless if it's, Russell
Peyton
Wilson,
Manning,
Patrick
28
Mahomes.
interceptions his rookie year.
Everybody has turnovers.
People forget Peyton's second year. They won games, but he was throwing a ton of interceptions too.
No.
And like Bobby said, I can deal with interceptions, but fumbles, like, those have to stop. Like, those, like, it's way worse when you fumble the ball because it's right where you were at the line of scrimmage. At least with an interception, it could be the size of a punt, or it can be, at least farther than it would be if you fumbled the ball right at the line of scrimmage. Like, the fumbles are really bad. But I can deal with interceptions. You look at someone like Brett Favre. Like, he threw a lot of interceptions.
Eli Manning.
Eli
Manning led the league 3 times.
And they can still win you games. Like, you can still win games if you throw interceptions. Like, turnovers are not the worst thing in the world. The thing you want to look for in a quarterback is someone who has the leadership qualities to lead your team. And Daniel Jones has that. Like, you can see that this team wants to play for him. Like, the O-line wants to, protect him and everything. Like, the team loves him. And yes, I hated the pick when we made it. I was very skeptical and everything, but looking at it now, like, I watch Daniel Jones, like, I see a quarterback that can be a top 10 quarterback in the league. I don't know how people don't see that. Like, this guy has made a lot of throws that are really, really, really nice. Like, yeah, a lot of quarterbacks have, but I mean,
I just think people look around, they see Kyler Murray, and they see what he's doing with Arizona. They look at Lamar Jackson, they look at Pat
different
Mahomes,
systems, different teams.
They want shiny toys. That's what they want. And the team's losing, and they want. Listen, I say
Tyler's the biggest dink and dunker they're out there now. His legs make some highlight plays, but watch him these first 2 weeks. He has been dinking and dunking.
He's got 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, and everybody's talking like he's the greatest thing ever.
I know. I don't get it now.
Because they're 2-0. That's why.
The run plays are crazy. Can I ask this, because a couple people are doing comparisons?
Yeah.
Who is your comparison for Jones? I know that's kind of a crappy question because sometimes there's just not really a great one, but our guy Danny brought this up after the draft, and I feel like it's proven true. And no one says this. I really think his comparison in the NFL is Big Ben. Like, you're going to have the LOL, like, bad moments, but he, takes in there. He takes the hits. He's going to he's not like a runner, but he makes plays with his legs when he needs to. I really think it is Big Ben. People. So, like, someone said Alex Smith. I think, like, arm, accuracy, legs is a very good comp for Daniel Jones, but playing style, they couldn't be any more different. Where Alex Smith, you had to beg him to take chances, and that's why Alex Smith never could get it past, push the limit, is because he wouldn't take chances. Where Jones takes the chances, but you just kind of want him to reel it in at certain times. So that's why I think Alex Smith is a good comp as far as, like, his tools, but playing style, I feel like they're complete opposites.
I would say maybe like a mobile Matty Ice.
I would say mobile Matt
What about
Ryan.
a Tony Romo? Is that crazy?
I could see Tony Romo too. I think Matt Ryan is the closest one for me. I think I can see a lot of Matt Ryan in him.
To say Tony Romo, I would need to see him take more control of the offense at the line of scrimmage, where it doesn't look like they've given him the freedom.
I'm not saying he's there yet. I'm saying I can see that. Yeah.
But, like, that's where I feel like Tony Romo kind of set himself apart, is he just he was basically calling every play at the line of scrimmage. And Romo liked to use his legs a ton, where Jones picks and chooses. That's something, though, I would like to see them give him a little more control of the offense, because I feel like they just haven't given him that like control of the offense. Now, granted, maybe he's not ready, so I'm not going to bang on the table because we're not there at practice. So yeah, but anyways, I think Big Ben playing style and similar tools is my comp for him. But Alex Smith, tools wise, yes. Play style, I feel like they're total opposites.
Yeah. I actually think that's really good. I basically said that. I think he's very similar to Smith, but he takes more shots down the field. So yeah.
A bunch of people are saying Joe Flacco in the chat for some reason.
No, Joe Flacco to me, Joe Flacco was a Joe Flacco's kind of. I'm trying to think who's Joe Flacco.
He just didn't care though. Like that's
Joe
the other.
Flacco had a rocket for an arm. He's kind of like Josh Allen without mobility.
Yeah,
like he had a rocket for an arm.
Everyone around the Ravens says that Joe Flacco really didn't care that much. Like he was kind of like a bad teammate. He put it together in his contract year. All of a sudden, put two and two together there. But a lot of people in Baltimore just said like Flacco just like never really bought in. Like when Ray Lewis was doing his speeches and stuff.
And the way he handled when Lamar Jackson came around was horrible. He wasn't even helping him out. They said, right?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but supposedly Flacco just like never really like bought in.
Yeah. Blue Collar Man, thank you very much. It says biggest reason we are 0-2: new coaches, underperforming talent, or not enough talent. Is it a legit concern to think DJ can't read defenses well? Those are all really good questions, Blue Collar Man. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so all right, I'll start with that. The biggest reason why we are 0-2, he says, is it the new coaches, underperforming talent, or not enough talent? I think it's a little bit of everything, and I'm not trying to blame the new coaches. I think there's unfamiliarity there, so I think it takes time to learn the schemes for the coaches to get acclimated for the players to get acclimated to the coaches. There wasn't a normal preseason, so I think that's part of it. Underperforming talent, I don't even know if I should say that yet. I don't really think anybody, like as a unit, I don't think anybody's severely underperformed outside of the offensive line, but I've expected that. I thought it was going to take 6, 7, 8 weeks for them to get going. And then
I'd say the tight ends.
The tight ends blocking has been bad. Good call there. And then in terms of not enough talent, yeah, I don't think we have enough. I don't think we're there yet. I think we have players that could get a lot better. We're one of the youngest teams in football, but we're not there yet in terms of a developed football team. So I would say it's a combination of a couple of those things that you said. And is it a legit concern that DJ can't read defense as well?
Can I say something on that?
Go ahead.
Let's go through the 3 interceptions. The one against Pittsburgh, where he rolls out. It had nothing to do with reading defenses. He got hit as he threw. You could say it's a bad decision, but it wasn't reading a defense.
Right.
The TJ Watt, that wasn't that was like I don't.
That was a fantastic play.
Yeah, people try to wash that away like that's on Jones, but that's not him reading a defense. And then the Ingram one, Ingram slipped and the ball gets popped up and they intercept it. So like none of those interceptions had to do with reading defenses.
Yeah, last year he struggled against zone coverage, but this year somebody brought this up. I think it was on Fireside Giants when I was on their channel. I couldn't believe it. He is 28 for 32 throwing down the middle of the field through the first 2 weeks, and that's going up against some of the most athletic linebackers the sport has to offer with the Bears and the Steelers. Jones has played real outside of the turnovers.
But see, people put so much emphasis on those turnovers, which is just unbelievable.
Well, turnovers bad.
They're bad, but like you look at the turnovers. And like Bobby said, the first one, he was trying to throw it out of the back of the end zone. He waited too long. Bud Dupree hit his arm. Okay, bad interception. The other one, TJ Watt. Okay. The next one, Ingram slipped, and then he threw an interception, and then there was a fumble. I mean, come on. If we take you can't take them away, but if you just take them away for a second, you look at everything else he's done, he hasn't even been bad at all. Like he's made good throws and good reads. Like all those interceptions, like Bobby said, none of them were because he read the defense wrong. Like he wasn't throwing the ball and he was just throwing it to into zone coverage and someone, broke on a route and just intercepted the ball. Like they were either a bad deflected, pass off his arm when he got hit. And then, you're not going up against TJ Watt, a really athletic outside linebacker, just make a play like that every week. And then hopefully Ingram learns how to not slip on a route. And then boom, you take away some of those turnovers. It's just, people put way too much into every single turnover and don't put enough emphasis on all the good things he does. And they just undermine every single thing he does and just focus on turnovers. Yeah, turnovers suck. Turnovers have to stop. But in his 14th start, to look at these last 2 games, he hasn't even played a full season technically yet. He's played really well. I just don't understand the people that are saying tank for Trevor Lawrence. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. You're rooting for your quarterback to be bad. That's basically just rooting for your team to suck for the next year. And then hopefully next year, he's not going to suck. Well, what if he sucks? Then you root for another quarterback? Like,
and the other thing,
rooting to suck.
And the other thing, like, all right, we're talking about the pressure. We're talking about the pressure that Daniel Jones has been under as the New York Giants quarterback. Let's just say the tank for Trevor people get their wish, and we go 1-15. We get the first pick, and we draft Trevor Lawrence. You think the pressure under Daniel Jones was bad? What do you think it would be under Trevor Lawrence? You gave up on a quarterback just 2 years into his career. Now you're bringing in the guy that's supposed to be the savior of the franchise, the guy that's supposed to be the next Andrew Luck, and he's going to have the same exact problems that every quarterback's had for the last 8 or 9 years here. So could you imagine the pressure he would be under? So
Exactly.
I just hope it works out with Daniel Jones and we fix the holes that this team currently has. That's just my mindset. Everybody's different, but that's me.
Yep.
Roldy, man, thank you so much. Just wow, something I finally agree with Skinner. Skinner's awesome, Roldy.
I told you we gotta work through our issues, big dog.
He says, as far as Romo, not there yet. No, he's definitely not there. I was talking more along the lines of ceiling. If you look at Jones, his throwing style reminds me more of Kurt Warner. Interesting. Anybody see anything with that? I never thought about Kurt Warner. I'll say one thing about Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner had some fumbling problems, if I remember correctly.
He was another guy who would stand in the pocket, like like trying to make a play.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I guess that's not a bad comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that's a pretty good comparison. I did threaten to fight Elvis Anthony from the Talking Giants in the chat, but I said that because I like him. I only threaten to fight people I like. Elvis Anthony.
Elvis Anthony's
on pay-per-view.
Elvis Anthony's awesome. Rolly, man, thank you so much. Just good panel, but next time I hope you can have me. Of course, man. Roldy, I'll definitely have you on, man. Next time I hope you can have me and a few of my boys on Twitter on that has a different perspective on this team. Seems like everyone has the same opinion about this team. Roldy, I'll have you on next time. You want to come on? I'll have you on, man. Definitely. I try to have different.
Gang up on Bobby.
Yeah, I try. I'm gonna have a YouTuber, and I'm hoping to get different subscribers on every week. So I'll definitely have you on. Let's see what we got here. No, Lawrence, we need help everywhere else. We don't need a quarterback next year. Draft picks. All right, yeah. Let me ask you that. Okay, and I know Bobby's we're all Jones guys, but let me ask you this, Bobby. Let's just say Daniel Jones does not progress this year. Let's just play the game. Let's say he struggles over the second half of the year, he regresses, and we get the first pick. What would you rather? Would you rather take the quarterback there, or would you rather trade down and get a ton of picks?
Trade down. Depends how far you're trading down, but definitely trade down. I believe it's a hard hypothetical because I would have to see what Daniel Jones' issues were. So now it's like
right. And
okay, yeah. I'll play the game. If after this year I don't believe in Daniel Jones, then I strongly don't believe in him. Like the way I would like Dwayne Haskins after a year or two. I would judge between the QBs. I might even be Justin Fields. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like I could end up after going and watching those guys, and I'm not going to watch them until the season's over. I feel like I could like Justin Fields more than Trevor Lawrence. But let's sticking with Jones. I would like to trade back, and then get Jamar Chase out of LSU. I love him. The wide receiver out of LSU. I think that dude would have been the best wide receiver in this past class. I think going into this season, I think he's the best overall player in the 2021 draft.
So let me ask you this, Bobby. If we get the third or fourth pick, you feel like that if he's there, you're taking him no matter what, despite our needs on defense.
No matter what. It depends. Someone on defense could pop up. The two guys on defense, Peel bringing up Parsons and Russo from Miami. Those were the two guys I want to see more from this year. Where Parsons plays like really close to the line of scrimmage. And then Russo, like a lot of his sacks came against like guards and stuff. So I really wanted to see those guys develop this year. So they would scare me a little bit. But you could also say Sewell from Oregon, the offensive tackle, and just double dip at the offensive tackle.
What about the cornerback from Alabama? Everybody's talking about
Surtain.
If he's really good, yeah. I don't know enough about him yet to have a full opinion. But yeah, if there's a cornerback that we truly believe in. But I'm also there. That's the one position I am so scared of drafting now is corner. Like, just go sign the best corners in free agency every year. We did it with Bradbury. Jenkins was good when he was here. DRC was good when he was here. Just stop drafting corners, and just buy. That's the one position. Let's just go buy the best corners every year.
Yeah, because we do not draft well at that position.
No,
that's for damn sure. We do not draft well at that position. Simon, man, thank you so much. Just agree with Savage 100%. Also, give the O-line time to gel. Yeah, listen, man. We all have been saying
the whole team has to gel.
They were way better in week 2 than week 1. Like, Jones was pressured, like 3 times compared to I can't remember the exact numbers. He was hit 9 times against Pittsburgh, once against Chicago. He had they played well. Now there was sacks. One was just because they had 6 versus 5. The one was on Thomas, who Thomas is the one guy we have full faith in. And Fleming is just the one where it's like, hey, like, all right, my expectations aren't high in him. But Gates had a really nice game against Chicago. I know people point to he didn't put his hand on the ball there. I have no idea what's going on there. Nobody looked interested in snapping the ball in that play, so I'm not going to pretend to know what happened. And Zeitler, after his worst game as a Giant against Pittsburgh, bounced back and had a really good game against Chicago. So you can't it's in the numbers. He was pressured 3 times less than he was like against Pittsburgh. It was like 34%, and then against Chicago, he was pressured 12%. That's an improvement right there.
Yeah, it was visibly better, the offensive line week 2 to week 1. I completely agree with that.
Granted,
By the way,
Chicago didn't blitz like crazy, like Pittsburgh too, so it could have just been a product of that as well. So
that's true. They still got 4 sacks, but I want to shout out Bobby's channel again real quick. If one of my mods could post it in the chat in the link below, he does a phenomenal job over there on Talking Giants. Please go over there and check him out. I want to again say thank you to Bobby for coming on. We'll be live for about another 20-30 minutes, but thank you to everybody for being here. Stephen Lilly says, we beat the 49ers. Everyone happy that Donald meets DJ.
Aaron Donald. That's the true test for Nick Gates.
Don't even say that yet. I'll be happy with this game. Don't even mention Aaron Donald playing against this offensive line.
But I'm honestly excited for that game because I want to see how they look against the best guy in the draft. How do they attack Aaron Donald? So, like, I get now he could also dominate, and then it'd be like, look at Nick Gates versus this guy. It's like, well, look at everyone versus that guy. But I actually am excited to see that matchup of our 3 interior guys versus Aaron Donald.
100%. It's definitely going to be a matchup. And, of course, Chase Young's another matchup we're all looking forward to. Thomas versus – I hope we get to see Thomas versus Young. Talking Giants is one of the best Giants. He's phenomenal. They're phenomenal. They got a great channel over there. Move Evan Ingram to the slot, receiver position. He hardly blocks. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, Montel Gordon. And Bobby Skinner's finally on board with that. He said he's willing to give it in to try to get the most out of. I was kind of reluctant myself just because I think he presents such a big mismatch at the tight end position. But at the end of the day, especially with Shepard out and our lack of talent at the wide receiver position, I don't know if I want him exclusively to be a wide receiver, but I do want to see him lined up more on the outside. I agree with that.
I mean, he either does well or he doesn't, and we just move on from him. And if he does well, we just keep him there and keep riding that train.
Yeah, I agree. And Dush says, Entertainer, we should have drafted an O-line before we got Barkley. I feel like we draft like we were playing Ultimate Team Draft in Madden. Listen, that's fair. That is definitely fair. Here's the thing I always say with that, though, and I'll get your guys' take on this as well. I think that's fair. We had a running back behind an offensive line that couldn't block. So, and a running back is a position that has a short shelf life. So, but if we're being fair, Barkley had a great rookie year, but still, we didn't have that good of an offensive line. But here's what I'll say about that. Everybody points to that we should have taken why is the name escape me right now? The guy that went to the Colts, the guard. Quentin Nelson. Everybody says we should have taken Quentin Nelson. But to that I say is this. One, you tell me the last time a guard went number 2 overall. People say that a running back is reaching. When's the last time a guard went number 2 overall? It doesn't happen. Tackles go number 2 overall, not so much guards. And I'm not saying Nelson would have been a bad pick, but the other thing I'll say is this. If Nelson comes here, is our team really that much better? I still think we're a bad team. We'll probably win in 5-6 games. And if Barkley goes out and rushes for 2,000 yards with the Browns, everybody says, well, how did you pass up on Saquon Barkley? So, at least in my opinion, I think the New York Giants were kind of in a tough spot there at number 2 if they weren't taking a quarterback. I have agreed if there was a trade there, they probably should have traded down if they could have gotten fair value. But I think fans would have complained if we took Nelson just like Barkley. The injury, of course, you can't predict that. But I get the saying they're not taking a running back before you fix the offensive line. Now, I'll get all you guys' thoughts on that.
People like that like to live in a world where we took Nelson and then took Chubb in the second round, as I've found out.
Yeah, and I think it's fair.
Everyone bats 100% after the fact. I mean, everyone's going to be like, oh, well, we could have drafted this guy. Well, of course, because now you know what those players are. Like, you never knew what they were going to be. And, like, as a person who wanted Saquon Barkley because I didn't like any of the quarterbacks, I mean, I'm still content with the pick. Yeah, we don't have an offensive line for him. And looking back, we probably could have drafted differently and probably been better off now. But, I mean, you can't say, like, oh, we should have drafted an offensive, a line before. Because you can't really go back and, you can't go back and change the past. Like, we have to at least try to improve on it now, and that's what we did with Andrew Thomas. And, going back to if we have the higher pick in the draft this year, and say we do trade, and say we do get the number 1 overall pick, which I don't think we will, but if Gettleman's gone, I still don't want to get rid of Daniel Jones. You can trade that pick away to a team like the Panthers that are going to be looking for a quarterback probably, or even if the Jets, if they're out on Sam Darnold, or any team that's going to be low in the draft that you could trade basically Trevor Lawrence for, and you could pick up Sewell and then double up on the offensive tackle position. Then you have 2 offensive tackles for the next 10, 15 years, and we can stop complaining about the offensive line, because at that point we'll actually have 2 bookend tackles that we've never had since, back when we had, David Deal and what was it? And Kareem McKenzie. Like, we haven't had, offensive tackles like that in years. And, looking back, we probably, should have drafted offensive line. But, I mean, like Chris said, you got to draft Quentin Nelson, number 2 overall. And we don't know if there was a trade there. After the fact, people say trades, there were trades there. But, anyone can say anything. You don't really know if there was.
Yeah. Yeah, you hit home with it. Bobby, what about you? What's your take on the whole Saquon Barkley number 2 overall?
Obviously, I think we all would have liked to trade back.
Yeah.
Would have loved to take what the Colts got from the Jets. We don't know what was going on. The only person to say after the fact that Denver was offering is Benjamin Albright, who's like a known liar. So I don't believe that Denver was offering. To me, it was like you guys. I like Darnold, but I wasn't sold on him. So, and my whole thing is don't take a QB unless you truly believe in him. So for me, it was between Saquon and Quentin Nelson. I would have went at Saquon. Looking back, maybe the right pick would have been Nelson. But also Nelson wouldn't have had added wins to this team. Do you think the path of this team changes a bunch if they draft Nelson?
I'll say this: they have a better long-term future with Nelson.
Yeah, he would have set up a foundation.
Saquon being hurt changes the conversation.
Yeah, but you can't predict that. And here's what but I still think people would have complained, because let's say Saquon didn't get hurt and he was, the Browns take him at 4 and he's killing it in Cleveland. Well, Giants fans right now would be like, how did you pass up on so it's like everybody in the chat I think said it's hindsight 2020, and we have to move on and hope that the New York Giants make the best out of it. Of course, I would have loved Quentin Nelson and Andrew Thomas on the left side. Are you kidding me? It would have been ridiculous for the next 10 years, but. I understand why they didn't take a guard number 2 overall.
I wasn't tweeting back then, but I would love to. I should pretend that I was all in on Lamar Jackson and be like, I was all in. I was telling everybody, because I didn't have any tweets to where people were like, oh, you're lying. So I should have. That should have been my answer. It's I was all in on Lamar Jackson.
Well, that's what a lot of people will say now. They knew all along it was Lamar, even though every team in the NFL had no idea.
The Ravens passed on Lamar. That's everyone's like, how did you pass on Lamar? It's the Ravens passed on him twice in that draft.
Yeah, they traded up to get him after they had already made some selections. Yeah. Blue Collar Man, thank you so much. He says, I am a DJ fan. I hope he reads the D's better, not about picks, but about seeing what's coming and Audible. Does Gettleman destroy our future to save his job? No, I'm going to say no to that. For the simple reason that he could have done that this offseason. He didn't do it. Dave Gettleman could have easily went out there and done exactly what Jerry Reese did in 2016 and tried to take the short-term fix and spend tons of money on these. He could have brought in a guy like Yannick or whatever. He could have brought in the best pass rusher on the open market. He could have brought in Byron Jones. He could have brought in he could have done what the Dolphins did. He could have spent a boatload and kind of handicapped this team in terms of cap space for the future. He didn't do that. I credited Gettleman for that. He didn't ruin the future of this team to try to save his own job. So I say no. I don't think he's going to do that at all. I think he, even if he gets fired this year, I think he's trying to set this team up for future success.
He didn't do that, and he still had some quality signings. He's done pretty good in the free agent market this year or this offseason. Yeah,
and the way he drafted also. Look at the guys he drafted. He could have drafted a wide receiver in the 3rd round. Instead, he said, no, Matt Parrott's a guy that can help this team for the next 10 to 15 years. He's not going to have an immediate impact. But you don't think that drafting, name a wide, I don't remember who was there, but I'm sure there was an impact wide receiver that he could have taken there in the 3rd round. That would have helped the team more this year than the future. Gettleman wasn't thinking that way. He was thinking about setting this team up for the next 10 or 15 years in the draft. So, no, I do not think he will do anything within season to change that. That's just my opinion. Bobby, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I agree. You make good points. Like you said, he drafted looking to the future. The free agency looked into the future. I will say to that point though, the Devontae Freeman signing made like okay, maybe he's trying to like save his job. But then I went and watched Dion Lewis like miss like 5 holes, and then I was like, okay, the Dion Lewis or the Devontae Freeman signing makes a little more sense.
Yeah, and I don't think Devontae Freeman's a guy that's gonna. He's gonna be a platoon back. He's not gonna be a guy that comes in here and gets 20, 25 carries. I think it was a move
cheap.
that. Yeah, he's cheap. I think it was a move that we had to make. But yeah, the way he drafted wasn't to set up the team for this year. It was to set up the team for the next 10. So I say no. I don't think he's gonna hurt the future of this team at all this year.
Yeah.
If I'm being
Do you
honest.
guys fire Gettleman this year if we get that like 2-14?
I mean, all right. Well, if you're asking what
If your ownership, like if everyone here was Amara and you had a say in that, you fire Dave Gettleman, or you keep him on?
Well, I would be much different than the current ownership. And I, like Bobby just said, I might not have fired, as much as fans might hate to hear this, I might have not fired Pat Shermer after last year because I would have wanted to keep familiarity with the quarterback. I wouldn't have wanted Daniel Jones to have to learn a completely new scheme in the next year. I'm not saying I would have done it, but I would have thought a lot harder than I think the New York Giants ownership did. I don't know if I'd fire Gettleman, to be completely honest with you. But if you're asking me, do I think they will? Yes. I think the New York Giants are going to use him as a full guy if they go 2-14, 3-13. The only worry that I have is somebody going to come in here and completely blow it up? I can't honestly answer that. Gettleman's done some good. He's done some bad. I'd have to really think about it, to be honest with you, if I would or wouldn't. I'd be rooting for him not to, just because I want to see one more year of this rebuild. But if they do fire him, I hope they hire from within. Bobby, what about you? Anything to add? Oh, go ahead, Boz. You go first.
I honestly think that Gettleman's not even making most of the decisions by himself anymore. I really think that they've given Joe Judge a lot of say in what they do. That's why I don't think he's going to destroy the Giants if he wants to save his job, because I really do believe that Gettleman, like, he has to almost go through Judge. Like, he's almost like Judge is like almost like his babysitter in a way. Like, I feel like Judge is getting a lot more personnel say than we really think he does. And I do believe that they're going to fire Gettleman this year. I honestly, the only way I think he saves his job is if we go like 8-8. I mean, even if we're 6-10, I think he's going to get fired. And I don't think that they're going to hire anybody outside. I feel like they're just going to hire Kevin Abrams from inside, and then they're just going to continue the rebuild, but with a different person, so people won't be, as upset, and try to, that way they can appease the fans by firing Gettleman, but kind of keep the same guy so they don't have to get rid of Jones if they do perform really bad. Because, if they hire Kevin Abrams, he's not going to get rid of Jones. He was part of the drafting process with Jones and everything. But yeah, I really don't think that there's any way Gettleman saves his job unless we make the playoffs. I really don't see
I agree with
he
you.
saves it.
I don't know about the playoffs, but I agree. At least 7 wins. Maybe 6. It's a discussion. But if we win 5 games or less, he's gone. I agree with you on that. That's just facts. I think that is what will happen. But Bobby, what about you? What's your take on the whole Gettleman thing?
Yeah, if it's like 2-14, he will get fired.
Yeah.
We did it last year after the season when they decided to retain him. We went through like every like $1 million or more deal of Gettleman and like graded it, and I was slightly above average. So that's like going into the offseason or before Shermer's fired, I was like, I think it should be either both get fired or both stay, because, and this isn't some like crazy take by me, it's simply when you get a GM and a head coach off schedule,
yep,
you just set yourself up for, like I said, you bring a new GM. He may not like Joe Judge, but ownership tells him to stick with Joe Judge for at least a year. He fires Joe Judge after a year. He tears it down. So I would be totally fine. Like, I don't think Gettleman's done some things I've really liked. He's done some things I've really disliked. So that's why if it's just terrible this year, that's when you would think about moving on from Gettleman. So like I said, there's some things I like about Gettleman, things I dislike, and that's where I would probably be. I would be okay with moving on from him if we were like 2-14, 3-13.
Yeah, you're not going to see me complain if we fire him at 2-14, 3-13. I'll completely understand it. I'll talk about the things that he missed on, for sure. But like you just said, I would also think about the whole Joe Judge as well, because then you're limiting your potential hires, because you're saying to the guy, whoever takes the job, listen, you've got to keep Joe Judge as your head coach. And some GMs may not want to come in here and do that, which is why they may hire from within. So that was a good point you brought up.
I'm going
there.
to say fire Dave Gettleman because Roldy Lewis hates Gettleman and he just dropped you $100. So fire Dave Gettleman.
He must
Roldy,
hate
man.
him.
Roldy, man. I can't say thank you enough for all the generosity you always show me, man. Thank you for being such a great supporter. And yeah, like I said, I definitely want to have you on the panel next week, like you asked earlier. I would have had you on today. I put it on Twitter. You probably didn't see it, but he says, listen, fans like myself wanted a quarterback. If not, we wanted to trade down, take Nelson, and that's a fact. That I think is fair. That I think is fair. If you didn't take a quarter, I think those were the two best options. If you didn't like a quarterback, the next best option was to trade down. That I completely agree with. If there was a trade there, which we'll never really know, like Bobby said.
I think trading down was the best option regardless of who was there because we weren't in a position where one player was going to change our franchise. We were of course shit through the entire franchise.
He says Dave's Gettleman job when we came was to fix the O-line, and that's what he should have done with Nelson in his face instead of taking a running back. We knew the injuries would happen with a running back, Chris. That's fair. I mean, that's all Gettleman talked about was fixing the offensive line. Now, to his credit, he tried. He failed. He tried to bring in the best offensive lineman on the open market his first year with Nate Solder. Nate Solder didn't really work out. So far, Hernandez has been okay. He hasn't, been as good, at least up to this point, that I think we were all hoping for. So that's a fair criticism. And if he is fired, that's going to be the first thing I talk about. That was his mission statement when he came in here. And through 3 years, the offensive line didn't take a monumental leap. So I do think that is the biggest criticism against Gettleman if this offensive line doesn't get into shape by the end of this season. So that I just gave you a preview to my Gettleman fired video if he is fired. So there you go. And Roldy, man, thank you again, man. He says, hell yeah, I'd be upset if we hire Abrams as our GM. He isn't a personnel guy. He is a money guy. The team needs to think outside the box and hire a GM from the outside. Well, here's my thought process if they hire Abrams. I think it's going to be Joe Judge's team. I think it's going to be Joe Judge is going to be the guy that makes the most of the personnel decisions. And maybe people don't want that because he's a young coach with not a lot of experience. I think Judge would be he might not have the title. All right, let's be fair here, guys. Joe Judge this year made most of the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at the players that they brought in. Look at the coaches they brought in. They all had familiarity with Joe Judge, most of them. You look at the two Packers guys they brought in. Patrick Graham coached them both at the linebacker position in free agency, right, with Martinez and Fackrell. Every coach he brought in had a tie to Joe Judge. I think Joe Judge had his more say than Dave Gettleman this year with the majority of the offseason moves. So even if they made Abrams the quote-unquote GM, I think Joe Judge would have just as much say, if not more.
I agree. That's what I think is kind of going on right now. Like I think
that scares me though.
Yeah.
Like, what has Joe Judge proven that he can pick at all these players? And Belichick has struggled with that a little bit too. Like
Belichick's been horrible. People don't realize that. Belichick in recent years they've drafted bad the New England Patriots. Bobby, yeah.
So we'll see. Scott Pioli was just complimenting Joe Judge today, so maybe that's him trying to get the GM job at the end of the year.
There you go. Danny says Gettleman would have drafted Claypool instead of Parrott if he wanted to save his job. I think Claypool was gone by then, wasn't he? Claypool went in like he went in like the late second, right, or maybe early third. He didn't get to 99.
Trade up if he was really.
Yeah, exactly. He could have tried to trade up, get away. Yeah. And Anthony, man, thank you. He says fans who want Gettleman fired are completely wrong. We need consistency. A new GM resets everything. It's not smart. Said this last night. I'm not rooting for it. I'll say that. I'm not rooting for it. I'm rooting for them to win 6 or 7 games this year and at least have one more year of Gettleman. That's what I'm personally rooting for. Everybody's different. Same. I know a lot of people want Gettleman gone right now. I talk about what Bobby just said. I don't want a GM and a head coach on different timelines. If you bring in a GM now from the outside with no attachments to the team, he had no say in Daniel Jones. He had no say in Joe Judge, the two most important pieces of your team. So if the team doesn't do well after 1 year, then he may say, well, we need another coach. Yeah. And I don't want to keep flipping coaches. So that's my mindset.
New GMs have egos too. They want to build their own team. Like whenever I didn't buy Madden this year, but whenever we used to get Madden, I'd play franchise mode. First thing I do was trade everybody. I want to build my own team. GMs are the same way in real life.
Well, let's think about Jerry Reese. I say it all the time. Jerry Reese won 2 Super Bowls, but who gets a lot of the credit for those Super Bowls? Because Eli Manning was the quarterback, because they had OCU Manure, Justin Tuck, guys that, of course, he drafted. You're right. GMs have ego. They want to be the guys that gets the full credit for the team that wins the Super Bowl. And if you leave Daniel Jones on as the quarterback, people are always going to say, well, Gettleman drafted him. You didn't. So that's a really good point that you bring up there.
I think Gettleman has to stay here for at least another year or two, or if he just completely shits the bed after those 2 years, I agree with Roldy, and we need drastic overhaul, complete change. with someone outside of the building and not Kevin Abrams. I don't think. I agree with Bobby. I don't think leaving all those decisions to Joe Judge would be a wise idea.
Yeah. What I'll say is, though, I personally think he's already making the decisions. I think he made them this year, whether we think it's wise or not. And Joseph says, late to the show, more Caden Smith this week, you think? I do think we'll see more Caden Smith.
Hopefully.
At least in that fullback role or the H-back role. I thought he did great in that role. I think we will see more Caden Smith this week. And Simon says, McKinney, Parrott, and Lemieux haven't even seen the turf yet. Well, McKinney's due to injury. He'll see the turf when he gets back. Parrott, probably second half. Lemieux, I don't think sees the field at all this year. Yeah, but they weren't impact picks for this year, guys. They just weren't. It is 10:45. I wanted to go for about 2 hours. It's been 2 hours on the dot. I just want to say, first off, we already talked about the game tomorrow. I think we all think the Giants are going to win tomorrow. Let's get a W tomorrow. I want to say thank you to all you guys for coming on. I want to give Bobby's channel another shout out before we leave. I need my minds to drop that link in there. Please, he does a phenomenal job over there on Talking Giants. And I want to say thank you to all my diehard subscribers that always come into my streams for being here tonight. Looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Hopefully we get to celebrate a New York Giants victory. And I'll go around the panel. I want to say thank you to Boz for coming on. Been with me for a very long time. We talk on Twitter all the time. He's a diehard New York Giants fan. It was great getting to talk to you about New York Giants. You did a great job tonight. Thank you for coming on, buddy.
Chris, you're the goat of Giants YouTube. Appreciate you letting me go back on. Boz, David, I don't know if you guys are on Twitter. Let me send me a DM if you do, and I'll follow you back. It's been fun.
I'll follow you too right now.
Bobby, man, thank you so much for coming on, man, and thank you for everything you do for the Giants community. Your film breakdowns are phenomenal. You're a great guy, and I'm looking forward to coming on your podcast whenever you got an opening. I definitely would love to.
I hate to plan on air, but I was thinking because we try to do something different for a bye week. Let's get you on for the bye week.
Let's do it. Let's do it, man. What is that, week 11?
I'm not sure, but that's the 1 week where we do an interview in season, so we'll have you on. We'll get a full hour on there or something.
That's awesome, man. I can't. And hopefully I get to have Justin on next time I do one. I'd love to have him on. He's great. He's great too. But Boz, go ahead, my man.
Yeah, dude. Just thanks for having me on. Hopefully the Giants get a win tomorrow. And I've been with the channel for a long time, since the Gettleman project.
Yes.
A long time ago. Yes. Back when we used to see the Mets stuff on the wall. Yeah, been a long time. But thanks for having me on. I'd love to come back on again. And let's go Giants.
Yeah, man. Let's go, John. By the way, you're going to get the game tomorrow, I hope? You said you didn't get the game?
I hate living near Buffalo because it's so stupid. Like, you're going to play the Jets and the 49ers and the Bills instead of the Giants. Are you kidding me? You played the Jets. 80-yard touchdown the first play, and that's who you're going to play? Oh, I was so mad. I had to pay $100 for NFL Sunday ticket just to watch the game.
It's worth it. I'm in Florida, so I have to get it.
Yeah, wow. I couldn't. But this is for one game. $100 for one game. I was heated.
I love that, though.
That's how you know he's a diehard New York Giants fan. He's paying as much as he'd have to if he was in the stadium to watch one game. So,
Boz, are you on Twitter?
Yeah, at Bobby Skinner _. Oh, Boz, yes, Bob. I thought you said Bob.
I can show you a way to work around that, so you have to pay $100 next time.
Oh yes, please send me that.
Yeah, I got you.
But David, man, thank you so much for coming on, man. Again, 2 weeks in a row, you did a great job. Thank you for coming on, man. Thank you for being a great subscriber.
Thanks for having me again. Last week I was optimistic. This week I'm a lot more optimistic, given that we're playing a high school team almost. Hopefully we can come out with a W. Hopefully next week Roldy isn't out here screaming at everyone. Hopefully he's a little bit happy that we're doing at least something good. And yeah,
you got a hairbrush there, Bobby?
I do.
Look at him. He brought that up for the ladies.
Roldy, he's another person. Let's work through our issues, man. I'm not sure who you are, but let's work through our issues.
Yeah, we got to get him some therapy. We'll get him on the channel next week. We'll get some therapy. But Dave, man, thank you so much for coming on. And Bobby, once again, man, you were fantastic. Thank you for coming on. And thank you to everybody for being here. Had a lot of fun. Always love doing these streams, getting to hang out with the subscribers, bringing another YouTuber. And you guys have a great night. We'll see you guys tomorrow. And Giants going to get their first win tomorrow. Let's have some positivity, guys. Let's beat those 49ers. Have a good night, guys. Have a good night.
We're going to go